Chapter 1. Mother. 3 years ago I promised you that after avenging father, I would conceal the identity of the capital city's eldest young lady, Miss Tang, avoid involvement in business conflicts, and, according to your last wish, marry Hector Lin to live a peaceful life as an ordinary person. But now, I want a divorce. After bidding farewell, Jazmin Tang placed the white chrysanthemums down and left the cemetery. In the misty drizzle, a combat helicopter stood on the helipad by the entrance to the cemetery. A dignified, elite middle-aged man waited nearby, bowing respectfully to Jazmin, eldest young lady. Have you now returned to the capital city? No rush. In a month, I will sever all ties with the Lin family before returning. Jazmin slid into the discreet Mercedes beside her and returned alone to the elite villa district of City H, Lily Villa. The moment she stepped inside, Jazmin was met with her husband Hector's cold gaze. Jazmin, I have already registered my marriage with Helen abroad. We are legally husband and wife. From now on, you manage the household internally. She will handle affairs outside. You will still be Mrs. Lin. Why have you been sulking these past few days? Always dressed in this black mourning attire? What is there to be angry about? Jazmin looked at her handsome yet impatient husband, her porcelain white face so cold it bore no expression. Before her mother's death, she quietly married Hector. She invested her dowry into Lin Group, saving the Lin family from the brink of collapse. On their wedding night, Hector left the country. Before departing, he tenderly promised a lifetime together, faithfully and devotedly, never to betray her. Hector, for these past 3 years, I have faithfully served your grandmother and your sister here in City H, using my dowry to support you abroad so you could pursue your ambitions without worry. Now that you've made your name, you publicly announce your marriage to Helen? What do you take me for? A paid nanny? Hector Lin refused to revisit his dark past and grew increasingly resentful of Jazmin's accusations. Yet he showed not a trace of guilt. He even said, "We are one as husband and wife. I can only do well if you do well. Why must you argue with me like this? Consider what was said before as if unheard." Now that Lin Medical Technology is about to go public, Helen, a professor of finance and biology esteemed in Country M, holds decisive influence over Lin Corporation's development. And you are merely the eldest young lady who only knows how to tend flowers and drink tea, unable even to understand financial reports. Outside, my wife can only be her. Arrange for someone to prepare the master bedroom immediately. Helen will be moving in later. After speaking, Hector left without waiting for Jazmin to answer. Making room for the mistress? Jazmin is not that despicable. After going upstairs, she called to have a top-tier lawyer oversee the delivery of the divorce agreement. She also arranged for this villa to be put up for sale. When the Lin family went bankrupt, the house was mortgaged. At the time of their marriage, she brought the Lin family members to live in her own Lily Villa. Over time, Hector likely forgot that this house belonged to her. Since the decision to divorce has been made, the things that belong to her no longer grant the Lin family members any rights to them. Sincerely betrayed, there is an unmistakable bitterness in the heart. But Jazmin is not the fragile lady who cannot live without someone. She has always been able to grasp tightly and let go just as easily. She took her usual morning nap, but no sooner had Jazmin just lain down than she was disturbed by a sudden clamor. She went downstairs to see what was happening. The hall was festively decorated. The garden was laid with a red carpet, and wedding photos of Hector and another woman were prominently displayed. Grandma Lin and Hector stood on either side of a short-haired, sophisticated city woman, escorting guests on a tour of the villa. Even her sister-in-law, who had long been hospitalized, smiled with rosy cheeks at the short-haired woman. Sister-in-law, take it easy. You are carrying my brother's precious son in your womb. Chapter 2. The laughter of the members of the Lin family abruptly ceased when they saw Jazmin. The short-haired woman appraised Jazmin, clad in a black cheapao, with a contemptuous sneer. You must be Jazmin. I am Helen, a professor of finance and biology who has returned to Country M from Massachusetts. Hector must have told you, tonight we are holding Lin Medical Technology's IPO celebration banquet here, alongside my birthday banquet, dressed all in black. You really don't suit being seen here. Go hide out at the hotel for a while. Jazmin ignored him, quietly fixing her gaze on the members of the Lin family. Do you all agree with what she is saying? Hector Lin frowned. Haven't I made it completely clear? Don't bother with empty titles to the outside world. Only Helen is my wife. Grandma Lin urged. Helen has a child now and is a handful. Always coming and going. You're not even pregnant. What harm is there in stepping aside a little? His younger sister-in-law muttered as well. Sister Jazmin, we're all family from now on. Any child of my brother will call you mom. Just try to come to terms with it. Jazmin felt as if she had swallowed a fly. A deep, sickening disgust twisting within her. Grandma Lin suffers from esophagitis and sleep disorders, requiring meticulous care. Every night, she kept her company until the late hours, and at 5 each morning, personally prepared meals. 3 years, over 1,000 days and nights without a single break. Her younger sister-in-law was born ill, with a weak heart, hospitalized and medicated for years. A single dose of the special medicine cost tens of thousands. Yet she never once hesitated in supporting her for 3 full years. Yet her genuine devotion only raised such an ungrateful wretch. Jazmin laughed bitterly. If you want me not to care, fine, divorce it is. This house is my dowry. You all get out immediately. Helen's expression shifted. Lily Villa is the most prestigious villa in City H. Where else could compare when hosting a banquet to flaunting it here? Besides, the invitations to her birthday banquet have already been sent out. If the venue were changed at the last minute, where would her dignity lie? She steadied herself and spoke first. Jazmin, the kind of eldest young lady I despise most is one who only knows how to tend flowers, sip tea, and engage in petty jealousy. Rest assured, I have no interest in competing with you. Compared to marriage, what I cherish most is my career. After I give birth, I will return to the laboratory in Country M to continue my research. My dream is to assist Hector in successfully developing targeted cancer treatments, making Lin medical technology renowned worldwide. I am Hector's wife, and this matters greatly to Lin medical technology. You might not be aware, but I have returned to the country bearing a 300 million contract from the international giant MA Pharmaceutical Group, ready to be signed after this banquet. MA Pharmaceutical Group? The young sister-in-law exclaimed. Isn't the life-saving, specialty medicine I must take every day monopolized and developed by MA Pharmaceutical? Sister-in-law, you actually persuaded MA to cooperate with my brother. That's remarkable. Helen nodded arrogantly, casting a glance at Jazmin. Even a young girl knows this. Yet you fail to comprehend. I do not ask you to understand us, but please do not hold Hector back. Having spoken, Helen ascended the stairs with an icy expression. Jazmin remained calm throughout. Hector immediately followed after her, and as he departed, he did not forget to admonish Jazmin, no matter how you cause a scene, you must leave Lily Villa before the banquet begins. Was he about to act like a bandit? Then, Jazmin heard the Lin family's grandmother call the security guards to evict her. You cannot take this house with you. When you marry a chicken, you follow the chicken. When you marry a dog, you follow the dog. You married into our Lin family. So naturally, the dowry belongs to the Lin family. Divorce is acceptable, but you must leave empty-handed. The matriarch of the Lin family spoke with an air of unquestionable entitlement. Jazmin cast a cold glance and said, Then let's see if you have the power to make me leave with nothing. Jazmin walked out. After a single phone call, a convoy of Rolls-Royce vehicles arrived and stopped before her within 5 minutes. A man stepped down respectfully and approached her, holding the jade Buddha she had carefully chosen for Grandma Lin half a month ago, along with a contract already signed, granting Hector Lin assets worth 300 million. She glanced back at the bustling Lily Villa nearby, then coldly brushed the jade Buddha off onto the ground. Order, destroy the contract and immediately sever all cooperation between MA Group and Lin Corporation. Gabriel, the head of MA Group, replied respectfully. Understood. Eldest young lady. The Lin family does not realize that MA Pharmaceutical Group is merely the tip of the iceberg of the Tang family's wealth in the capital city. The 300 million contract Helen mentioned was, from start to finish, Jazmin's support for Lin Corporation. Yet Helen believes it was her own achievement, and keeps boasting? Then let her flaunt it as much as she likes. Soon, it was 9 o'clock in the evening. Lily Villa. The banquet had already begun. President Lin and Professor Helen truly are a match made in heaven. Both have already become leaders in the medical field before turning 30. I have heard that the international medical giant, MA Group, has specifically approached the Lin Corporation for collaboration. The future of Lin medical technology is boundless. President Lin, let us have a drink. As he listened to the praises of the crowd, Hector held Helen's hand firmly. The two shared a profoundly affectionate gaze. At that moment, a man suddenly appeared at the main entrance, calling out to the hall, "Hector Lin, as of today, MA Group will sever all cooperation with the Lin Corporation. 1 month from now, MA Group invites all medical enterprises in City H to find new partners." "Who are you? What nonsense are you talking about?" Helen was angrier than anyone else. She had made a name for herself relying on the 300 million contract with MA Group. But the messenger delivered the message and then left. Hector, his face darkened, immediately called the person in charge at MA Group. Receiving an affirmative response, Hector was utterly perplexed. The person in charge at MA Group had personally expressed great optimism toward Lin Corporation. How could they suddenly halt cooperation? Although Helen was also angry that MA Group had ruined the banquet, she comforted him, saying, "Hector, tomorrow I will visit MA and renegotiate the cooperation. Rest assured, I am a nominee for the Nobel Prize in Medicine from Country M. If I go in person, they will surely change their minds." Hector naturally agreed, but the banquet ultimately ended in discord. Early the next morning, Helen arrived at the MA Group's branch office building brimming with confidence, only to unexpectedly come face to face with Jazmin. She immediately put on a cold expression. "Jazmin? I never took you for capable. You even know that MA and Lin Corporation have severed their cooperation. To win Hector back, you deliberately came here first to seek collaboration?" Chapter 3. Helen cast a glance at Jazmin's black chi-pao, brimming with superiority. "You don't actually believe that just by having tea you can secure a collaboration, do you?" Jazmin remained calm and composed, with such sharp insight. "Is this how all your collaborations are negotiated?" Helen was infuriated by this attitude and was about to lose her temper when she saw Gabriel step out of the elevator. She quickly masked her anger with a smile and greeted him. "President Wang." Gabriel glanced at the face of his eldest young lady and urgently ordered the security. "Do you let just anyone in? Get her out immediately." At these words, Helen's smile curled into a mocking challenge as she looked defiantly at Jazmin, a pampered young lady who only knows how to squabble out of jealousy. Putting on airs as if she knows about cooperation, "Do you think you can just waltz into MA? Being thrown out is well deserved." Before her words had even died away, the security guard stepped before her, saying, "Please leave." Helen's face darkened. "Let me leave? Are you speaking to me?" The security guard said nothing, grabbing her and throwing her out of the MA gate. Helen caused a major scene, and as soon as she got home, she grabbed Hector to complain. By the time I arrived, Jazmin had already finished her discussion with President Wang. No matter what I said, President Wang refused to give another chance. I saw Jazmin behaving quite intimately with President Wang. Perhaps MA cut off cooperation this time because Jazmin was whispering sweet nothings to him. Hector's face turned extremely sour. The company was his heart and soul. How dare Jazmin do such a thing? He immediately called Jazmin, only to find that he had long since been blocked. MA refused to meet, forcing Hector to seek help through indirect channels. He found out that Gabriel had gone to an auction in City H and hurried there at once. When he arrived, the auction had just concluded. He immediately spotted Gabriel's car, the top-spec Hummer, the only one of its kind in all of City H. Hector stepped out of the car, intending to wait for Gabriel to emerge. But when the elevator doors opened, it was Jazmin who appeared. He regarded Jazmin with a steady gaze. She wore a cyan chi-pao, graceful as a lotus blossoming from clear water. A flicker of admiration crossed his eyes, but it was quickly overwhelmed by anger. "When did you start seeing Gabriel?" Jazmin gave him a sharp glance, unwilling to say a single word. Just as she was about to get into the car, the man grasped her wrist. "Jazmin, there's really no need to sulk by chasing after a man 20 years your senior. You invested in Lin Corporation, but it was I who painstakingly revived it over 3 years. Your efforts are part of it too. Surely, you don't want Lin Group to go bankrupt over your fleeting romances, do you? Let's talk this through properly. Don't let things get out of hand." The more Jazmin listened, the more absurd it all seemed. When they drove her out before, why was there never a word about her contributions to Lin Corporation? Raising her hand to interrupt, She was too weary to explain, since you already know I've gone too far. Why aren't you hurrying to divorce me? Your grandmother demands I walk away empty-handed. I'm not that ruthless. Just get out of Lily Villa and compensate me with half the shares of the Lin Group, that will suffice. Jazmin. Hector was seething with anger when the phone rang. The voice on the other end was urgent and loud, and Jazmin heard every word distinctly. Your sister has fainted from heart disease. Hurry to the hospital. Watching the man depart in a panic, Jazmin cast a cold, mocking smile. Panicked? This is only the beginning. Did he really think it was easy for her to hold down the home front for him these past 3 years? Hospital. Hector Lin rushed over, upon hearing that Aurelia had fallen unconscious from running out of her medication. His forehead veins bulged with anger. Why wasn't she given her medicine? Grandma Lin's voice was hoarse from crying, and she was still cursing. This week's supply is already finished. It's all because of that heartless Jazmin. She left without leaving any medicine. If there's no medicine, then go buy some. The steward, wiping the sweat from his brow, whispered, this medicine can't be bought anywhere. We've asked everywhere. Hector was stunned. How could it be impossible to buy it? The butler's expression grew troubled. I've already inquired. This medicine is a patented special drug owned by the MA Group. Without personal connections, no amount of money can buy it. Personal connections? Hector rubbed his temples. Then how did Jazmin manage to obtain it? He immediately thought of Gabriel, his face darkening like spilled ink. While he was lost in thought, the secretary hurried in. Bad news. President Lin, the herbal medicine supplier who has always worked with Lin Corporation, suddenly wants to terminate their cooperation. Already irritated, Hector strode into the corridor with his staff. Do I need to be consulted on every trivial matter? Just change the supplier. But this medicinal herb supplier is from the capital city. Their quality is the best. Moreover, the set of equipment originally arranged for the laboratory was snatched away by someone else. Without the updated equipment, the new project cannot proceed, Hector said impatiently. Then raise the bid and take it back. The secretary looked utterly crestfallen. The cash flow is insufficient. The laboratory costs are enormous. Previously, Madam had been covering the expenses every month. This month, the payment was supposed to be made yesterday, but Madam hasn't transferred the money, and her phone is unreachable. Since Jazmin left, problems have arisen everywhere. Chapter 4. I heard Madam recently spent 100 million buying a ginseng at an auction. She must have cash flow. Perhaps you could reach out to her. The crisis could be resolved swiftly. The secretary fell silent, intimidated by Hector's grim expression. I will find a way to resolve the financial issues. Hector dismissed the secretary and rubbed his temples, growing increasingly agitated. He had always believed that Jazmin only injected a sum of emergency funds into Lin Corporation 3 years ago, never suspecting she had been advancing money every single month. Why had she never mentioned this over the past 3 years? When Grandma Lin learned that Lin Corporation was once again short on funds, she immediately insisted on seeing Jazmin. Without the Lin family, Jazmin, a lone daughter, would have long lost that enormous dowry. The Lin family has allowed her to live as a secure and prosperous lady for 3 years. If she cannot even show gratitude and instead causes you trouble, then so be it. We absolutely must get money from Jazmin. Hector Lin frowned at Jazmin's attitude and said firmly, Grandmother, don't mention her again. You foolish child. Helen told me everything. She's already betrayed you, and yet you still care for her? That spendthrift woman spent 100 million just to buy a ginseng root. It's a waste of money. It would be better used to support the Lin family in an emergency. Grandma Lin was exasperated beyond words, with so much money at stake. No wonder since Jazmin left, the blood swallow's nest she used to eat daily has vanished. Hearing of Lin Corporation's cash flow crisis, Helen was filled with shock and conflicting emotions. The greatest capital of a medical technology company is its laboratory. Yet Jazmin is the one sustaining even the laboratory's operations? With a slight roll of her eyes, Helen placed one hand on her belly and affectionately linked her other arm with Hector's. Don't rush. You focus on the company first. I'll find a way to handle the money matters. When Jazmin received Helen's invitation message, her first reaction was to delete and block her. But the next day, when she went to the cafe, she still encountered Helen. Did you see Hector? Helen challenged her with a confrontational tone. You keep talking about wanting a divorce. yet shamelessly cling to Hector. Don't you think that makes you look cheap? Jazmin chuckled lightly twice, the revered professor of finance and biology in Country M. Yet deceiving all three, who's truly losing face? Helen, however, was unashamed. The real mistress is the one unloved in a relationship. Hector and I have known and loved each other for 3 years, standing hand in hand through every hardship. You, a resentful woman confined to the back house who can't even tell the difference between types of test tubes, surely don't understand. Jazmin's expression did not change, a smile curling at the corner of her lips. Whether I understand the types of sergeants is irrelevant. What matters is that the Lin Group is once again on the brink of bankruptcy. She stood up and slapped $200 bills on the table. Consider today's coffee my charity to you. Good luck, Mrs. Lin. Having spoken, she walked toward the door. Just as she reached the steps, Helen chased after her, clutching her provocatively. You don't really think I came just to say that, do you? Jazmin was about to raise her hand when Helen suddenly collapsed. My child. My child! Help! With a thud, fresh blood immediately flowed between Helen's legs. Jazmin watched with an expressionless face. Was this woman so ruthless as to use her own flesh and blood as a pawn? In the next moment, Hector rushed over from nearby, caught the unconscious Helen in his arms, and looked up at her angrily. Jazmin, how cruel you are. If anything happens to them, mother and son, I will never forgive you. Jazmin looked coldly at the man, his eyes red as he anxiously embraced Helen and hurried to the car. Then, deliberately and calmly, she took out her phone and dialed, check if there is any issue with the coffee shop surveillance footage, and then verify Helen's pregnancy medical records. She is the eldest young lady of the Tang family, a noble household in the capital city. Helen's methods of framing others. She had seen at least 80 out of 100 tricks. To deceive her? Not a chance. That afternoon, Jazmin received a summons from the police. The police informed her that the Lin family had filed a report. Upon arriving at the police station, Jazmin had just stepped out of the car when Grandma Lin rushed toward her. You damned wretch! My great-grandson is lost. You knew full well Helen was pregnant, yet you deliberately pushed her. Grandma Lin's accusation was vehemently denied by Jazmin. I did not push Helen. If you didn't push her, did she fall by herself? Yes, that's correct. Jazmin's attitude enraged Grandma Lin, whose face turned crimson. Clutching her cane, she charged forward to strike. The police quickly intervened, restraining her and escorting Jazmin inside. Once inside, Jazmin immediately spotted Hector. The man hung his head low, but upon seeing her enter, he lifted his bloodshot, weary eyes. The police spoke up at that moment. Ms. Tang, the victim Helen is willing to sign a settlement agreement, but she demands compensation of 500 million. Chapter 5. 500 million? Jazmin sat down opposite Hector. That's quite a bit less than I expected. Should I add a little more for you? Otherwise, it won't even cover the shortfall in the Lin Group. Hector's face darkened instantly, his chest heaving violently. Jazmin, Helen has already lost her child. Her pain is such that you deserve to spend a lifetime in prison. She's mercifully letting you off, yet you show no gratitude. Then there's no need for further discussion. We'll proceed directly with legal action. After Hector finished speaking, he left without a word. The mediators exchanged helpless looks. Ms. Tang, you shouldn't have provoked him. We have already examined the scene of the incident. The coffee shop surveillance was unfortunately out of order, and there are no eyewitnesses. The current situation is heavily against you. The woman across the street is pregnant. If you proceed with the lawsuit, your chance of winning is slim. Jazmin, the party directly involved, remained the calmest of all. Within half an hour, Gabriel arrived accompanied by a lawyer. Gabriel methodically presented the gathered evidence. Eldest young lady, according to your instructions, I have checked Helen's medical records. She is not pregnant at all. The lawyer handed the police several pieces of evidence and added, this is blood residue found at the crime scene. Upon inspection, it is prop blood plasma. We have also obtained evidence that Helen bribed a doctor to issue a false abortion certificate. The police sifted through the evidence. The lawyer said to Jazmin, you can now request the police to arrest Helen on charges of extortion. A coldness flashed in Jazmin's eyes. the corner of her lips curling slightly. No rush. Let's suppress this matter for now. I want to settle the score with them once and for all. Jazmin applied to block all news of her release without charges. In agreement with Gabriel, it was decided that in half a month, MA Group would hold a bidding conference, formally inviting all medical enterprises in City H to seek new partners. In half a month, it would also be time for Jazmin to return to the capital city. The settlement with the Lin family should also reach its conclusion. Once news of the MA Group's bidding conference was released, the Lin Group, a former partner, was openly and covertly ostracized and suppressed by their industry peers, leaving Hector overwhelmed and frantic. The members of the Lin family no longer had the energy to trouble Jazmin. Before long, half a month later, the premier hotel in City H. The hotel's interior was magnificent, adorned with gold and jade. Even the most modest glass of red wine at the banquet started at 100,000. The enterprises attending the banquet include not only medical entrepreneurs from City H but also numerous magnates from the capital city's conglomerates. Any one of them could shake the entire financial sector. Hector entered accompanied by Helen and was equally impressed by the MA Group's extensive network. He looked joyfully towards the crowd. There are rumors that the investors behind the MA Group are the Tang family from the capital city. It seems these reports are true. Tonight, the head of the Tang family will also appear. Let's go meet and discuss further cooperation. Even if we can't restore cooperation with MA, simply connecting with a prominent figure from the capital city will help the company overcome its funding challenges. Helen agreed. Then we don't have to waste time dealing with Jazmin. As they spoke, startled exclamations rang out from the doorway. Both turned around in surprise. Jazmin appeared, clad in a golden silk qipao, the peony embroidered on its hem so lifelike it seemed to bloom, perfectly complementing her exquisitely timeless face. Her slender and graceful figure was truly a paragon of beauty admired by all ages. Jealousy flared in Helen's heart as she deliberately linked arms with Hector and stepped forward, angrily confronting Jazmin. How did you, a murderer, get released from the police station? Ha! It was Gabriel who bailed you out, wasn't it? You think that by climbing into the bed of that old man, he'll protect you forever? Chapter 6. Helen was so consumed by jealousy that she wished to proclaim to the entire world how utterly despicable Jazmin was. Gabriel is nothing more than an employee working for MA Group. Don't you know? Today, the true investor behind MA Group has arrived. They are revered aristocrats of the capital city, far beyond the reach of a murderer like you. If you know what's good for you, leave immediately. Don't wait to be driven out like a dog. Jazmin curled the corner of her lips into a cold sneer. How do you know I'll be driven out? What? Are you close with the owner behind MA Group? Only Helen failed to see through it, arrogantly retorting. Of course I'm more familiar with this than you are. If you hadn't whispered into Gabriel's ear to sabotage things, the Lin Group's cooperation with MA wouldn't have been severed. Just wait. When I meet the head of the Tang family later, I will surely expose your wicked deeds. Jazmin, after we settle our scores, you'd better prepare to rot behind bars. Hector's face was cold as well, but his gaze toward Jazmin carried a struggle difficult to understand. Evil deeds never go unpunished. Take care of yourself. Jazmin smiled wryly. Our accounts are indeed long overdue for settling. An unkind and unrighteous person truly deserves to look out for themselves. Perhaps it was because their voices were louder, drawing the attention of many onlookers. Hector and Helen noticed that the renowned coal magnate, Director Zhao, was approaching them. With no time to continue their entanglement with Jazmin, they quickly went over to greet him. Helen did not forget to cast Jazmin a proud and provocative glance over her shoulder. So what if the Lin Corporation is short on funds? They are now the rising stars of the industry, with unstoppable momentum, and many are eager to invest in them. Now that the true power behind MA has arrived, Gabriel is insignificant. He might even have to swallow his pride and beg to collaborate with the Lin family. Just as they were thinking this, they noticed Director Zhao unexpectedly bypassing them, bowing slightly behind their backs with a broad smile. Long time no see. President Tang. Hector and Helen turned around in shock. President Tang? Jazmin Tang? Helen was astonished. Jazmin paid no heed to Helen's thoughts, smiling as she exchanged pleasantries with Director Zhao. Uncle Zhao, has your daughter's condition improved? Director Zhao grasped Jazmin's hand with emotion, tears welling in his eyes. Thanks to the medicine you personally prescribed, her heart disease hasn't recurred for years, and now she even dares to climb mountains. Hector stared at Jazmin's calm demeanor, his shock evident. Medicine? Heart disease? Jazmin knows how to prepare medicine? Helen's jealousy intensified sharply. Jazmin is merely a pampered young lady who only knows how to tend flowers and drink tea. Someone of her status wouldn't even come close to the qualifications needed to prepare medicine. Director Zhao. Don't be fooled. Director Zhao recognized Hector but did not know Helen. However, having heard about the recent happenings within the Lin family, his smile faded somewhat. President Lin, wasn't your sister's medication also prepared by President Tang? You didn't know? Please don't make jokes. Hector still refused to believe it. He had shown the special medicine for the type of heart disease that our younger sister suffers from to Helen. Helen couldn't even formulate it. How could Jazmin possibly manage it? Yet he couldn't help but stare at Jazmin, a profound sense of regret swelling in his heart. It was as if he had picked up a worthless stone while discarding priceless pearls. Jazmin sneered. Hector, there are many things you don't know. What do you mean by that? Suddenly, the entire hall was plunged into darkness, silencing the disbelief on Hector and Helen's faces. The next instant, a white light shone upon Jazmin, and Gabriel's voice abruptly echoed through the microphone. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend the MA Group's bidding conference. Now, please welcome the head of the MA Group and the Tang family, Miss Jazmin Tang, to give a speech. Chapter 7. Immediately, the entire hall was once again flooded with light, revealing the shock in Hector's eyes with perfect clarity. Jazmin, in Hector's mind, it was as if a once dark corner had suddenly been swept away by a torrent, leaving everything brilliantly illuminated. No wonder she was able to obtain Aurelia's medicine. No wonder that after the divorce, MA suddenly severed its partnership with Lin Corporation. So she is the true CEO behind MA. Helen's eyes widened in shock. Disbelief etched across her face. You are actually the one in charge of MA Group? How is that possible? Weren't you just the noble young lady left with some inheritance after your parents passed away? How could you possibly? Director Zhao, upon hearing this, silently stepped away from Helen. He was a superstitious man, firmly believing that keeping close to fools would render one foolish as well. Jazmin didn't even deign to glance at the two of them and strode directly onto the stage, addressing the crowd below with serene composure. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here. As you all know, today marks the bidding conference as MA Group seeks new collaborators. Hector was taken aback. Jazmin paused briefly, scanned the room, and continued. Our company hereby announces that from this moment forward, we will have no further business dealings with the Lin Corporation. Furthermore, any company cooperating with the Lin Corporation will no longer appear on MA Group's investment invitation list. Of course, the freedom to choose partners remains each party's right, and I have no authority to intervene. As soon as the words left her lips, the entire room erupted in shock. Was this not an open declaration to all of City H? That whoever cooperates with the Lin Corporation is effectively defying the MA Group? And defying the MA Group is, in essence, defying money itself? Yet, this was hardly a matter of grave consequence. All present were keenly aware of where the true power lay, between the MA Group and the relatively modest Lin Corporation. Who wielded more influence? Moreover, the MA Group is backed by the Tang family from the capital city. However, a few suddenly grew anxious upon hearing this. No, wait. If I withdraw from cooperation with Lin Corporation now, can that be excluded? Hector and Helen's expressions immediately darkened noticeably. Those few clung stubbornly when they first returned home, but now they are quick to sever ties. Helen shouted angrily. On what grounds? Jazmin, this is deliberate, vicious competition. Upon hearing this, Jazmin chuckled softly. Before she could speak, a powerful figure from below mocked. Competition? Competition also requires merit. How can your small Lin technology stand shoulder to shoulder with MA? Everyone in City H knows how you rose. Do you really think that project was your own discovery? If it weren't for MA's full investment, who would even know Lin Corporation? You truly think of yourselves as a prized asset? Another person chimed in. Exactly. Otherwise, why do you think after MA withdrew their investment, you couldn't find partners anywhere? One of the influential figures who had learned of Hector and Jazmin's secret marriage laughed and said, President Lin, others tend to pass off imitations as genuine, But you, discarding a rare jade like an old shoe, you must have backed the wrong horse. Haven't you? Hector's face instantly turned dark with displeasure. This was a rebuke, mocking him for mistakenly believing Jazmin was worthless and had discarded her, only to discover that Jazmin was in fact his greatest asset. Jazmin may have wealth, but Helen's abilities surpass hers. Helen has truly fought her way up through her own merit. Even if he had known Jazmin's identity from the beginning, he was certain he would have fallen in love with Helen. How could he possibly pass off a fake as genuine? Hey, what does this mean? Someone asked. You all might not know yet, but President Tang secretly married Hector, and on their wedding day, the groom left for abroad. That's right, he spent 3 years overseas, funded by MA, before returning successful, bringing back a little wife. The phrase little wife carried a heavy ironic weight, grating painfully on Helen's ears. She furiously retorted, I earned my achievements step by step through my own research. Jazmin is nothing but the heir to her parents' fortune. Without that, what is she? She's the one who clings to men like a parasite, a little wife, a worthless burden. Yet her voice failed to change the minds of those present. They all scrutinized Helen, especially in contrast to the extraordinary and ethereal Jazmin on stage. With a single glance, they formed their judgments. Helen was utterly defeated. Chapter 8. The white dress rendered her complexion neither dark nor yellow, dull and lackluster. Perhaps to emphasize her plainness, she wore only a pair of pearl earrings, and her hair was simply pinned up, which instead made her appear shabby. Helen, feeling the eyes upon her, looked pale and sallow, yet she still held her neck stiffly, refusing to lower her head, unable to tolerate Helen's foolishness. Gabriel kindly explained, the inheritance is the capital of the Tang family of the capital city. The MA group was founded by President Tang himself when he was just 16, relying not a single cent from the family. You lie. Without relying on the family, how else could she have run a company? Helen said with a tone thick with disbelief and sarcasm. Gabriel stared at her as if she were a fool. Of course it's the patent bonus. Where do you think Hector got such a perfected project for your cancer-targeted drug? Those are the results of President Tang and his expert team spending half a year in the lab. You just have to follow the directions outlined in the project to execute it. Or do you think you're so gifted you could crack it that easily? And still boasting about a Nobel laureate, Pa. Hector was momentarily stunned upon hearing this. The cancer project was actually undertaken by Jazmin? How could that be possible? Yet, seeing Helen's suddenly guilty expression, he suddenly hesitated. He looked at Jazmin, suddenly realizing he seemed to know nothing about her, his wife of 3 years. The joy and excitement he once felt upon marrying her had already blurred. Only the memory of that day they first met, when her beauty was breathtaking and unparalleled, remained. Later, Helen appeared in his life, tirelessly striving day and night for the company's development. He observed Helen's effort, her ambition, her uniqueness among women, and suddenly felt that the privileged young lady Jazmin, who only knew indulgence at home, was not even comparable to a single strand of Helen's hair. Now that I think about it, was it really his fault? How could that be possible? Scoffing surged like a flood. Hector's face grew dark. Helen's face turned pale as she grasped Hector's hand. They're lying. That project was painstakingly developed by me. You saw it with your own eyes. I would never lie to you. An overwhelming sense of dread gripped her heart. But now Jazmin is the president of MA. So then Hector. She cautiously studied Hector's expression. Then, when Hector firmly clasped her hand, a heavy burden lifted from Helen's heart. She cast a smug, defiant look toward Jazmin. Jazmin gazed at their tightly clasped hands, a chill coursing through her heart. Do they still believe she is simply jealous, convinced that they harbor deep feelings for Hector? Does seeing their intimate closeness cause her pain? Heh. She clapped her hands sharply. So, you claim you cannot lie? In the next moment, the police, who had been waiting just outside, burst in. Before the stunned eyes of Hector and the others, Helen was taken into custody. Helen, you falsified a pregnancy certificate to frame Jazmin and are suspected of extortion. You will come with us now. Fake pregnancy? Blackmail? Hector stood before Helen, blocking the police, unaware of the sudden pallor on the face behind him. Helen hid behind Hector's shoulder, shouting loudly, "It's not me. I didn't do it. You've got the wrong person." Only when the police presented the arrest warrant did the tall figure falter, "Mr. Lin, please step aside. Do not obstruct official duties." In that instant, he understood. It was that 500 million. He abruptly turned to look at Jazmin. Jasmine's gaze swept over, meeting his eyes. "Right. There's one more thing tonight. You haven't signed the divorce agreement yet. I forgot to have the lawyer tell you, your marriage to Helen in Country M is invalid. So, you can either amicably divide half of Lin Corporation's shares between us, or I'll accuse you of bigamy and send both you and Helen to prison. The choice is yours." Chapter 9. Jasmine's eyes were cold and devoid of warmth. Hector suddenly realized that Jazmin, to whom he had been married for 3 years, was not only unfamiliar as he had sensed in recent days but had become a complete stranger. A sudden chill coursed through his entire body. Watching Helen being escorted away by the police, Hector frowned in painful hesitation. After a long pause, he signed the divorce agreement handed to him by Gabriel, then followed Helen and the police. It doesn't matter. As long as Helen is still here, everything can begin anew. Jazmin looked on coldly as the drama drew to a close. After casting a glance at the divorce agreement, she instructed Gabriel to collect the debts. She did not mind in the least that her birthday banquet became the talk of all City H. This was exactly what she wanted. Originally, if Hector truly loved Helen, she would have chosen to let him go. If Hector had genuinely agreed to her condition of splitting the property 50-50 and still insisted on marrying Helen, she would have seen Hector as a real man. She neither lacked nor desired that half of the money. But they did not act accordingly. The Lin family even schemed over her Tang family's estate in the divorce. If she were truly just a downtrodden lady from a broken family. If she were truly just a Jazmin who, like a stone wife, awaited her husband's return every day. Perhaps on the very day Hector returned to the country, she had already fallen into an abyss from which there was no return. A woman who depends on the love of her deeply beloved husband, once deprived of that love and longing, loses even the slightest sense of self. Helen didn't even have the chance to scheme. Inside the police station, Helen clutched Hector's hand, unwilling to let go. "Hector, it wasn't me. I would never do such a thing." Hearing this, Hector furrowed his brows tightly, then very quickly relaxed them. Helen would never lie to her. It must be Jazmin acting deliberately. He gathered himself and said, "How much did Jazmin pay you to accuse Helen? What did you say?" The police slammed the file down on the desk with force. "What do you take our police station for?" The forged proof of pregnancy certificate fell to the floor by Hector's feet amidst the shaking. He stared intently at the characters above, remaining motionless for a long while. Helen suddenly broke free from the 2 police officers, one on each side, and was the first to pick up the certificate, tearing it to shreds. "It's not like that. It's not like that." Helen shook her head vehemently. But Hector had already clearly read the words. Each word was undeniable evidence, unequivocally condemning Helen. Seeing the sudden change in the man's expression, Helen's eyes instantly welled with tears. She collapsed, utterly overcome with sobs. She said swiftly, "Hector, everything I do is for you, for the company. Without that 500 million, how could the next steps even begin? I cannot bear to see you so troubled. We have endured hardships together for 3 years. You know how deeply I care for you." At her words, a flicker stirred in Hector's eyes. Helen only wanted him to get through this difficult time, which was why she resorted to such a measure. A pang of tenderness flashed across his eyes as he was about to speak, when a slender figure appeared at the doorway. Jazmin had already changed out of her golden gauze dress, now wearing a casual shirt. She stepped inside, looking coldly at the scattered shards on the ground. "Professor Zhang, have you torn enough? If not, I still have plenty more here. But all these count as evidence of multiple attempts to destroy proof. That, I suppose, is for the police to judge. You, Jazmin, it's clearly you. You killed my child, and now you're framing me." The police reacted swiftly, restraining Helen in time, but they could not silence her hoarse, desperate screams. Jazmin's eyes brimmed with mocking numbness. "A child? You've been acting so long you're too deeply lost in the role, haven't you?" Chapter 10. Hector, moved with reluctance, said, "The company fell into trouble after you withdrew your investment. Helen did it because of me, too. Jazmin, can you spare her this once for my sake? She didn't mean to harm you." "Your sake?" What face do you think you have to ask for that? Jazmin sneered without restraint, utterly disregarding Hector's sullen expression, and continued, "You say she had no intention? Demanding 500 million outright if I hadn't come prepared. Wouldn't we already be doomed for not paying? If she truly had intent, wouldn't I have been executed by now? Intentional or not? Hector, are you genuinely foolish or pretending to be clever? What I uncovered with ease has blinded you till now. Then I shall tell you once and for all whether Helen acted with intent or not." As she spoke, Jazmin pointed at Helen. "You feigned pregnancy to force your hand, compelling Hector to acknowledge your relationship in country M and bring you back, coercing me into divorce. But upon learning that I was unwilling, despite your claim of already being pregnant, the members of the Lin family, unwilling to lose me as an easy mark due to the Tang family's fortune, and with Lin Technology coincidentally facing a cash flow crisis, you decided to use this so-called child to frame me and extort a sum of money. Is that correct? Helen, truthfully, you should never have studied biopharmaceuticals. You ought to have entered the entertainment industry. You would surely be a rising star, one so radiant that even the Oscar for Best Actress would have to be awarded to you." Jazmin's sardonic laughter did not enrage Hector this time, for with each of her pointed accusations, accompanied by evidence laid out before him, the truth became undeniable. Hector slowly, incredulously, looked toward Helen. At this moment, Helen's eyes were filled solely with panic. She suddenly clutched Hector's hand tightly. Hector, save me. If I go to prison, people will despise me forever. I cannot have a stain on my name. Hector, I did all of this for you. Have you forgotten that it was me who stood by your side through every storm all these years? She just wants to take revenge on me for taking you away from her. Think about it, over the past 3 years. How many hardships have we overcome together? The project leak was because of me. I worked tirelessly day and night to advance the progress and completed the research just before it could be fully exposed. And when employees were poached, it was during that time I never left your side. Hearing Helen's every sorrowful word, if she were not the first-hand witness, Jazmin might well have believed her. She narrowed her eyes slightly and raised an eyebrow, her all-seeing gaze sweeping over Helen. Jazmin revealed infinite disdain beneath her composed exterior. Project leak? Ha! Wasn't it you who sent the files to that so-called big shot for ideas? After the full exposure, you spent an entire week fixing your mistake. If I hadn't had Gabriel block the news in time and had that big shot imprisoned for espionage, do you think you could have finished your research? What I resolved in an hour, you stubbornly needed a whole week to repair. Even after everything was laid bare. Employee poaching. Hector, you surely cannot be unaware of your mistress's workplace bullying. Can you? She abuses her secret relationship with you to torment colleagues. Had I not sent the MA expert team, I fear the Lin Corporation would have collapsed entirely. And Helen's so-called most outstanding research project, what a masterful deceit. The incurable cancer treatment was the result of 6 grueling months of work by me and the expert team. Yet, in the end, only your name, Helen, appears on the credits? Don't you feel even the slightest twinge of guilt pocketing the patent bonus alone? At this juncture, Helen found herself completely unable to mount a defense, watching Hector shift from astonishment to disappointment, then to closing his eyes in despondency. He had entrusted the laboratory affairs entirely to Helen. He had never imagined Helen to be that kind of person. Helen completely collapsed, limp as the police led her into the interrogation room. Jazmin had come to submit new evidence. After speaking, she intended to leave but was stopped by a man. Helen, can you spare her? Chapter 11. Jazmin turned around, slowly fixing her gaze on the disappointment and desolation etched upon Hector's face. He truly cared for Helen, didn't he? After all, she did everything for me from the start. I should never have taken her to you with such a rash wish to divorce. Jazmin stared at him in astonishment, wanting to take back what she had just said. He doesn't love anyone. He loves only himself. A selfish and self-absorbed man. It was only because Helen was willing to sacrifice herself for him that he was willing to bestow his affection. She suddenly felt a certain absurd pity for Helen inside the interrogation room. She still remembered that before they returned to China, she had seen Helen in the news, the country's foremost biologist and a luminary in the pharmaceutical industry. She was poised to break the ironclad barrier of cancer's incurability. Now, you reap what you sow. Jazmin did not answer but instead retorted, "If I were not the eldest young lady and unable to produce 500 million, would you let me go?" Hector was instantly left speechless. After a long pause, he finally asked in a hoarse voice, "There's something I've always wanted to ask you. Do you truly love me?" Jazmin wanted to laugh but couldn't. Before the divorce, you gave your body and heart to other women. After the divorce, you come to ask your ex-wife whether she loves you. Have you never properly known your place? Hector, I have been married into the Lin family for 3 years, contributing money and effort, honoring grandmother, caring for your younger sister, secretly supporting your career, hoping for your glorious return to the country. I consider I have done well enough. Yet what have I received in return? Not a single one of your promises was fulfilled." Jazmin said no more, turning sharply and striding away, intent on distancing herself from this quagmire of disputes and the contentious people within. Hector gazed blankly at Jazmin's fading silhouette. A regret beyond his reach suddenly overwhelmed him. He rarely regretted the decisions he had made. The only 2 times were, once, after confirming his feelings with Helen in a foreign land, regretting having married Jazmin so hastily. The other time was now. Each time, his mistakes had been grievous. So now, could he no longer afford to make the same mistakes again? He had already lost Jazmin, he could not afford to lose Helen as well. Helen made a mistake. But in the end, it was all for him, despite the egregious errors. Helen is fundamentally kind-hearted, and it was her hard work and ambition that attracted him the most. He could forgive all those mistakes. Since the Lin family had reluctantly moved out of Lily Villa, nearly another month and a half had passed without any news of them. The weather had turned cold, and Jazmin, clad in a brown leather jacket, appeared both competent and vibrant. Gabriel knocked and entered the office, holding a contract. "President Tang, there is a contract to be signed." Jazmin swiftly signed the documents, then glanced at the family portrait on the table, herself with her parents, and suddenly did not mind being called President Tang. It was as if, upon hearing those words, her parents were still there. She was still her parents' cherished little princess, carefree and joyful, responsible for nothing but happiness. Yet, while the former President Tang was still addressed thus, she had already begun to stand on her own. Jazmin sighed softly, looking at Gabriel. "Anything else?" Gabriel hesitated and said, "The police informed us that Helen was granted bail pending trial due to her pregnancy. I sent people to verify. It's true. She really is pregnant." Jazmin's demeanor was too composed, prompting Gabriel to ask sharply, "Is that really it?" "That's it? Being granted bail doesn't last a lifetime. I'd truly like to see if she has the guts to bear child after child just to avoid prison." Jazmin asked, "Has the Lin family delivered the shares and the compensation?" "They did send them, but Lin Corporation's current shares still don't match the value of any subsidiary under MA. This compensation, without MA's expert team, I doubt they could even keep the company afloat." Gabriel said disdainfully, "Don't underestimate Hector. MA has supported him for 3 years. Even a starving camel is larger than a horse. Moreover, don't forget that domestically Lin Corporation is only a branch office. Its headquarters remain in Country M." Jazmin twirled the pen lightly, smiling faintly. Hector's mind is sharp. If he can't penetrate the pharmaceutical industry, he will simply seek another path. You guessed right. I've heard that recently he's been trying to acquire land on Huiyuan Road. Someone from the Sun family appears to be opposing him. Hector hasn't closed the deal yet, and as a result, the land has been transferred. It's likely to be publicly auctioned in a few days. Huiyuan Road? Isn't that the site she plans to acquire to build the biopharmaceutical company? No, that's not right, she asked in surprise. The Sun family? William's son? Yes. He has taken control? Seeing Gabriel nod, Jazmin could not help but feel astonished. Hector wants that piece of land because it is cheap. He is involved in real estate, and whether he keeps the land to develop and thereby increase the value of his nearby properties or packages it all for sale later, he will not suffer a loss. Why is William getting involved in this messy situation? As far as she knows, the Sun family has neither residential complexes nor commercial shops on Huiyuan Road. No. 1. Even farther out, they haven't built a single factory. It can't be just for fun, can it? Then I will also join the auction to stir things up and have a look. It's been years since I last saw William. Gabriel nodded and immediately began making arrangements. Chapter 12. Sun Corporation Building. Alex sank heavily onto the genuine leather sofa, only to be jabbed by his phone. As he picked it up, the screen illuminated. Gazing at the woman draped in golden gauze on the screen, Alex was so startled he almost jumped up. William, did you really set this as your screensaver? What's wrong? Don't like it? William's son emerged from behind the desk and snatched his phone back from his friend. Alex was so shocked his jaw nearly dropped. No way. Big brother, the man's married. And you set someone else's wife as your screensaver? So what? She's beautiful. With a frown, William added, don't deny it when I say you're out of the loop. They're already divorced. Alex felt his worldview was utterly shaken. No wonder I said ever since you came back from hitting yourself you've been relentlessly pressing down on the Lin family, unwilling even to give up a scrap of worthless land. Turns out you were just venting your anger on behalf of your goddess? But Hector truly deserves to be dealt with. Having married the foremost socialite of City H, he still dares not to cherish her. As for that Helen woman, I've seen her photo. She looks old and plain, not even worth a finger of Jazmin's. William scoffed coldly. She's not worthy. But after all these years apart, Jazmin has surely forgotten you. What's the point of you venting your anger on her behalf? Alex was bewildered. If this good brother liked her, he never seized the chance when he was single. After marrying, he left the country in despair. After the divorce, he hastened back eagerly, trying to score cheaper airfare. William raised his phone. The screen lit up with Jazmin's face as he waved it in front of Alex before exiting, leaving behind a trailing remark, because she's beautiful. Alex was speechless. Jazmin thought the next time she would see Hector would be at the auction, watching him duel William. Unexpectedly, Hector came looking for her the very next day. Anxiously, he knocked on her office door. Could you sell me some of Aurelia's medicine? She fainted and is fighting for her life. Hasn't Helen come out yet? Why didn't you have her prepare it for your sister? Hector's face darkened. Helen had indeed tried. She simply couldn't formulate it. Even if you're not selling it, there's no need to mock. Jazmin smiled. You only think I'm mocking her because you admit she's inferior to me. Isn't she a rare talent in the medical field? Both virtuous and gifted? Weren't those your very words? Now it seems she lacks virtue entirely, and even her talent was a lie. After saying this, she added, now that is true mockery. Hector's complexion darkened further. Jazmin raised an eyebrow. I can sell it to you. The cost is about 100,000, but in light of our past as husband and wife, I'll sell a single one for 500,000 in US dollars. Jazmin added, 500,000? Hector exclaimed in astonishment. MA isn't short of that money. Are you asking for too much with that lion's mouth? Whether they lack it or not. I never asked you for the medicine money from the past 3 years. Why didn't you feel you were opening your mouth like a lion when you initially demanded 500 million? Hector immediately fell silent. Indeed, one does not know the pain unless the knife cuts into the flesh. Jazmin sneered coldly. Whether you buy it or not is up to you. I have been giving Aurelia such precious medicine for 3 years. Even if you later use ordinary medicine, as long as she doesn't act recklessly, she won't die anytime soon. Those frequent dizzy spells, she must have been doing extreme sports again. Watching Hector's expression, Jazmin knew her words were almost certainly true. In the end, Hector gritted his teeth and bought a month's supply of the medicine. Chapter 13. Jazmin insisted that if the price was 500,000 per pill, then it was exactly 500,000, not a penny less. When they arrived home, Aurelia was already awake. Grandma Lin and Helen were both seated by her bedside. After taking the medicine, her complexion improved considerably. Before long, Aurelia threw back the covers and got out of bed, causing Grandma Lin to panic. Slow down. Slow down. You mustn't get excited or agitated. Oh, could Jazmin's medication be wrong? She's been taking it for 3 years. As long as she takes it on time, there's absolutely no problem. As she spoke, Aurelia rolled her eyes at Helen once more. Unlike someone else's medication, which comes with a guarantee but is worse than what ordinary hospitals provide. It's only been a few hours, and I was skydiving with friends when I suddenly fainted. How humiliating. Shut up. Isn't your sister-in-law worried about you too? She's pregnant and still preparing medicine for you. Can't you show some gratitude? Hector shouted angrily. How is she my sister-in-law? You people from Country M aren't even recognized here. We haven't even married yet. Besides, I've seen no reason to be grateful to Jazmin, who's been preparing my medicine for 3 years. So why should I suddenly be grateful to Helen? Aurelia pursed her lips and stiffened her neck as she looked at the silent Helen, as if seeing the Jazmin of old. They are all despicable. Grandma Lin cast a glance at Helen, displeasure flashing in her eyes. Yet she still admonished Aurelia for Helen's sake. That's enough. Aurelia, Helen is still carrying a baby. Then she looked kindly and gently at Helen. Helen, don't rush into marriage. Hector's career is unstable right now. And you're still early in your pregnancy. You can afford to wait a little longer. Helen clenched her fists but remained silent, only taking Hector's hand and nodding. That old wretch, does she really think I don't know she's been secretly checking her hospital records behind her back? She's afraid she'll cause another false pregnancy scandal. What unstable career? Isn't she just waiting to see her belly swell? If they don't marry now, are we supposed to wait until after the child is born, when she's sent to prison to settle everything? Helen was filled with bitterness, but since she now had to rely on Hector, she had no choice but to lower her head. Hector, it's all my fault, but the company is more important. It's nothing if I endure some hardship. Hector's eyes were heavy with sorrow. Fully aware this was no good time to marry, the domestic branch company was besieged on all sides, and overseas affairs were fraught with crisis. Yet, seeing Helen care for him despite her slight pregnancy, he looked toward his grandmother with resolute determination. I will marry Helen. Absolutely not. Grandma Lin refused decisively. Helen had initially proposed that Jazmin would leave the marriage with nothing, but what was the result? Not only did the Lin family receive not a single cent, they even had to give away a villa. And now Helen is feigning pregnancy and has been accused of blackmail. Who knows what scheme she is plotting against the Lin family? If you ask me, even if a marriage must happen, they should wait until Helen has given birth and it is certain she can hold the great-grandson before proceeding. My decision is final. After some time, I will fix the date with Helen. Having said this, Hector took Helen's hand and left, giving Grandma Lin no chance to argue further. How could my brother behave like this? When Jazmin was around, the family was never like this. Even before she stepped through the door, I had no standing at home. Imagine once she moves in. Aurelia, seething, grabbed Grandma Lin's arm. No, it's all her filthy schemes. Who knows if, just to get into our Lin family, she might be carrying my brother's child. Jazmin was better. After all, at least whenever a major brand launched a new product, they sent it to me the very same day. It's been ages since I last wore anything new. My friends even mock me. Chapter 14. Helen, who had turned back to retrieve something at the doorway, heard this and felt as if her teeth might shatter from anger. Hector clearly heard these words. His face darkened significantly. He immediately wanted to go back inside to reprimand Aurelia again, but Helen held him back. He looked at Helen's humble, downcast shake of the head, unable to fathom the profound sorrow in her eyes. Aurelia is right. I am not as capable as Jazmin. I can neither support you in your career nor help share the burdens at home. Hector, we should part ways. I do not want to hold you back. Hector was moved upon hearing this and embraced Helen. What nonsense are you talking about? I just said I want to marry you. Rest assured, I will treat you well for the rest of my life. As the words fell, Hector was momentarily dazed. Suddenly, he recalled that 3 years ago, he had said the same thing to Jazmin. No, now his love for Helen was sincere and genuine. He and Helen had mutually confirmed their feelings. Unlike with Jazmin, with these thoughts, he handed Helen a card. Take this card for now. Once the company situation eases a bit, we will get married. Helen nestled in Hector's arms, concealing the calculation in her eyes, nodded, pressing Hector's hand on her belly with a sweet smile. The baby and I are both waiting for our wedding. These days, Jazmin has been occupied with a new contract at MA. After the birthday banquet, she selected a promising new company. Gabriel did advise her to consider the new company carefully, not simply because of the initial financing. She understood that Gabriel feared she might repeat her past mistake, nurturing a white-eyed wolf after building up the new company. But this time, it was not Hector. Nor was she the Jazmin of 3 years ago, who only knew blind sacrifice. The background check came back spotless. The boss, Noah, is a medical graduate student from the local H university, who founded a pharmaceutical company and has sustained it for 2 years. Jazmin observed their experiences over these past 2 years. Their direction was sound, their efforts sincere, and most importantly, they upheld their principles. It was precisely because of these principles that they avoided mixing low-cost counterfeit drugs, which led to poorer profits. Genuine pharmaceutical manufacturers also disdain cooperating with small companies, and even when they do, the prices they offer are considerably higher, causing the company's sales to languish. And it was this very quality that Jazmin prized, while signing contracts with those seasoned veterans, who have battled through the merciless commercial seas for decades, guarantees steady profit. Perhaps if she could support a principled university graduate just entering society, she might prevent the fall of a shining morning star. Then send the contract to Integrity Pharmaceuticals. After signing the order, she instructed Gabriel to inform Noah from Integrity Pharmaceuticals that the MA decision to cooperate had been finalized. No sooner had she finished speaking than the office door was pushed open, and a clear, gentle voice called out, "Jazmin." Gabriel was taken aback. Looking over, he saw Oriana, President Tang's childhood friend who had just returned from studying abroad. "Wasn't it supposed to be another month? You came back unexpectedly to surprise me," Jazmin exclaimed with delight, while Gabriel quickly welcomed her in. "Miss Oriana." Oriana nodded, chuckling softly. "Not entirely. I just missed you terribly. As soon as I finished my thesis, I flew back. You don't know, if it weren't for that research you sent me, Lips was planning to hold me back for 2 years. It was infuriating." Jazmin gazed at Oriana, whose face still retained the softness of baby fat, and her heart, hardened for many days, finally softened once more. "Germany has the toughest graduation requirements. You should be grateful your studies were only extended by a year. If only I had followed you to study at Monash back then, I could have graduated alongside you." "No, wait. You genius graduated a whole year early, damn geniuses. I hate them." Chapter 15. Oriana spoke irritably, grabbing Jazmin's bag as she pulled her toward the door, a look of disdain on her face. "That's last season's style and you're still carrying it? Come on. Sister will take you shopping, consider it a gift for your divorce." That Hector, that despicable man, I always knew he was no good. As soon as the door opened, Gabriel came in carrying a glass of orange juice. Oriana drank it down in one gulp, still murmuring under her breath, "I think even President Wang's assistant is better than that worthless scoundrel. I've been overseas for so long, yet he still remembers I like orange juice. Look at Hector, 3 years of marriage. And what has he given you? Nothing but a belly full of bitterness." Gabriel listened as Oriana mentioned Hector again and again, each word striking like a blade into Jazmin's troubled past. The veins on his forehead twitched with tension. After finishing, Oriana swept her hand decisively and proclaimed, "I'm making the call for President Tang today. You're all free to leave early, go out and enjoy yourselves." Jazmin helplessly waved off Gabriel, indicating that they could proceed as Oriana had suggested. "I never expected that after all these years, the eldest young lady of the nouveau riche family would grow up to become a wealthy nouveau riche herself." Upon hearing this, Oriana gave Jazmin a reproachful glare. When she was little, she hated it the most when people called her father a nouveau riche. Later, when she herself started calling him that, she felt too embarrassed to stop others from saying it. By the time the two of them went downstairs and got into the car, news of the unexpected paid day off had already spread throughout the entire MA group, with many posting messages of gratitude. "President Tang is magnanimous. Long live President Tang's best friend." William arrived just then, only to be inexplicably turned away at the door. Gabriel apologized. "President Tang is not here. The company is closed today." Alex was the first to utter an ah, glanced at the date, and said in disbelief, "Your company is closed on Mondays too?" It was a last-minute decision. Alex gave a thumbs up and said, "Bold move." Then he looked at William. "Why don't you consult a master to calculate the fate between you two? It's hard enough for you to even meet, let alone be together. If you can't speak properly, then keep quiet." William glared at Alex and was about to leave when a man rushed in and called out to Gabriel, who was just entering the elevator, "President Wang." I'm Noah. Is it true that President Tang has decided to cooperate with our company? As soon as I heard the news, I rushed over. Has President Tang really chosen to work with us? Upon hearing this, William suddenly stopped, frowning as he turned to look back. A young male college student with a delicate, refined face, carrying a backpack. A new cooperation partner for MA? Has the cooperation project secretary from Sun Corporation finally delivered it? Jazmin didn't see it? What is Jazmin thinking? Alex instinctively spoke up, immediately seeing through William's thoughts, then chuckled knowingly and said deliberately, "After all, President Tang is divorced. Sometimes, looking good among peers is a form of competition." His gaze then flickered across Noah and William's faces. Speaking of which, Noah is undeniably handsome, with a delicate, almost puppy-like charm. By contrast, William is indeed a bit wilder, both domineering in temperament and unruly. Alex spilled everything he was thinking out loud, but before he could finish, the grim-faced king of the underworld gave him a harsh kick. "Let's go," gnashing his teeth in fury. With that temper, he still wants to pursue Jazmin? He doesn't stand a chance. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Jazmin drove Oriana to SKP. Over the years, she had rarely gone shopping because of the trivial matters of the Lin family. Whenever she had time, she spent it in the laboratory. Even the renewal of Aurelia's jewelry and wardrobe is entirely entrusted to Gabriel. Chapter 16. I fear that now even Gabriel, a grown man, understands more than she does. Oriana was just as before, disliking the VIP runway shows. She would simply pick up a garment from the store and hold it up to Jazmin. "I've realized, Jazmin, that every color suits you perfectly. The Gianni Versace debut just concluded. Let's go have a look." The two went to Tiffany's, and just as Oriana carefully held the dress she desired, it was suddenly snatched away. "Sorry, Ollie. My client is rather urgent. This dress is currently the only one available domestically. Let's allow whoever can confirm the purchase first to take it." "All right?" Oriana was still browsing through the clothes, unaware of what was happening nearby. Jazmin turned her head and saw that her own sales associate and another were disputing over the dress they had just examined. The other sales associate, wearing an expression of utter disdain, appraised her from head to toe, fixating on her out-of-season bag. She seemed convinced Jazmin couldn't afford the dress, her contempt growing even more pronounced. "Ollie, I've decided on this dress," Jazmin said as she glanced back. Ollie brightened at once and hurriedly said, "Certainly. I'll wrap it up for you right away." Jazmin calmly followed Oriana's pace over to the handbag section. She had thought the matter was settled. But barely 2 minutes later, the sharp click of high heels and an arrogant voice came from behind. "I had my eye on this dress. Are you trying to steal it from me?" Jazmin listened to the familiar voice, raising her brow slightly as she turned around with Oriana, Aurelia, and Helen. Helen followed behind Aurelia, her expression far less haughty than when they first met. Yet her gaze aimed at Jazmin was now filled with hatred. "Fine. No more provocation." "Hate her?" "Aurelia got bail because of her pregnancy, and still dares to wander around recklessly?" Jazmin smiled and spoke without restraint. "Pfft." Oriana laughed outright, shifting her gaze to Aurelia. "Does the Lin family still have money to fund your indulgences? That dress costs 190,000, probably equal to a month's income at your brother's company, right? You, Jazmin, do you really think you'll fare well without my brother? With your intelligence, I'm waiting to see MA go bankrupt. So what if you're gone? This dress, charge it to the card, I want it." Saying this, Aurelia handed over a black card. Eagerly, she busied herself swiping the card to pay the deposit. Jazmin's eyes narrowed slightly. If she was seeing correctly, this was the very card she had given Aurelia back then, to belittle her to her face, yet still spend her money? Jazmin smiled and nodded. "Is that so? Then you might be in for disappointment. Neither the dress nor MA will go bankrupt." Aurelia's expression darkened abruptly. "What do you mean by that?" No sooner had she spoken than SA approached, holding a card. "Miss Lin, you cannot use this card. The funds have been frozen." "How could it be unusable? This card is..." Aurelia faltered, suddenly remembering that this was the black card Jazmin had given her. "Bitch, why did you freeze my card?" Only a bitch has the nerve to spend someone else's money. Oriana interrupted Aurelia with a dark scowl. You what? Your mother gave you life but refused to raise you properly, no wonder you lack morals. Me, Aurelia, unable to out-argue Oriana, who hailed from a nouveau riche family, flushed crimson with anger, her chest heaving violently. Seeing this, Helen quickly interjected. Since you're divorced, why be so aggressively hostile? I thought you were supposed to be more noble. Noble? You're so noble. You become the mistress crawling into someone else's bed. Oriana was like a raging tempest, taking one down after another, two at once dispatching pairs. Utterly berserk, the SA staff had all gathered around, whispering about Helen, especially focusing on her slightly visible pregnancy. Chapter 17. Jazmin sneered. It's my money. Even if I threw it away, I would never let someone heartless spend it. Then she said to Aurelia, aren't you the one who loves spending Sister Hua's money the most? Let Sister Helen pay this time. At the remark, Helen's face turned pale. Hector had given her that card. Originally, she had planned to buy a few things for herself, but living with the Lin family, wanting to curry favor, she had to buy tonic supplements for Grandma Lin every few days. Now, she also had to accompany Aurelia to buy clothes and jewelry. She had already spent quite a lot. And there was Aurelia's special medicine for her heart disease. Hector had told her to procure it from M.A. Where was she supposed to find the money? Isn't it still supposed to come from this card? Just yesterday, 50,000 was spent. Now she wants a dress worth 190,000. Her heart must be breaking. When she was with Hector before, she didn't have to worry about anything, not even money. But now, as the wedding approaches, she's barely making ends meet. And to top it all off, she has landed herself in legal trouble. Yet she does not allow herself any regret. It's all Jazmin's doing. If it weren't for her insistence, holding Hector hostage with gratitude to force him to marry her, Hector wouldn't have realized after meeting her that his true love was Helen, unable to divorce yet desperate to do so, which led to everything that followed. It's all Jazmin's fault. Helen's grip on the card tightened relentlessly, suppressing her hatred. Helen clenched her teeth and handed over the card with a smile. Just charge it to me. Aurelia showed no gratitude, sneering. What do you mean? Yours? Isn't it actually my brother's? Stop pretending it's your own. Ha ha ha. Oriana laughed aloud, mocking without restraint, while Jazmin's crimson lips curled as she glanced at Helen. The emotions in her eyes were unmistakably clear. Is this the Lin family you went to such lengths to marry into? Helen's expression darkened considerably. By the way, Ollie, I don't want this dress anymore. Aurelia snapped again, and even the SA beside her looked at Ollie with pride. A dress costing 190,000. This month, her commission will finally secure her the top spot. Jazmin drew out her words and continued. Besides this dress, all the season's new arrivals, bags, shoes, clothes, in both our sizes, 2 sets each, sent to the old address. Upon hearing this, Aurelia and the SA's expressions froze completely. Yes, I will personally deliver them to Lily Villa. Jazmin left with Oriana, once again grateful for having cut her losses in time. Ollie bowed repeatedly, his excitement unmistakable, as he saw the two off. Jazmin was not spending simply to vent her anger. It not only slapped SA in the face but also made Helen's 190,000 seem utterly insignificant. Sure enough, Aurelia's expression darkened even further. One must understand, she never even needed to visit the boutique before. Whenever her favorite brand launched new items, a specialist would promptly arrive to completely refresh her wardrobe. Helen had just bought her a dress, yet she was so unwilling. In such stark contrast, Helen didn't even want to cast a single glance. I truly don't understand what my brother was thinking. He doesn't want Jazmin. But you? Aurelia stomped her foot, refusing to even glance at the dress, and turned sharply to leave. Helen clenched her fists so tightly her nails threatened to break the skin. Silently in her heart, she vowed that once she married into the Lin family, she would deal with them properly. For now, she would endure. She still needed Hector's protection. They were not yet married, and if Hector had to choose between her and the members of the Lin family, he would unquestionably not choose her. She dared not let their relationship fracture just yet. Jazmin, I will never let you go. The Lin family never treated you like this before, did they? Chapter 18. After stepping outside, Jazmin and the two others found a cafe to rest, when suddenly Oriana's smile abruptly faded as she asked. Jazmin reflected for a moment, feeling both that it was true and yet somehow not. So she nodded, then shook her head. Yes, because, indeed, the Lin family depended entirely on her financial support. No, because with her funding, the Lin family had always lived in peace. The Lin family matriarch and Aurelia regarded her with some favor, and before Hector's return, they never took the initiative to trouble her. Thus, she had the time to linger in the laboratory, supplying research and development experiments for Hector. But now that Helen is coming in, their standard of living has declined rather than improved. It would be strange if they treated Helen with kindness. Oriana gazed at Jazmin with sudden sympathy, her voice thick with anger. They are such ungrateful wolves. Jazmin comforted him. Haven't they already divorced? You look as if you were the one who got divorced. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have advised William. Being with him would be better than being with Hector. Jazmin looked utterly confused. What does this have to do with William? Oriana immediately fell silent. The entire social circle knew that William liked Jazmin, except for Jazmin herself. Oriana smiled proudly and said, "Nothing much. What shall we have for dinner? You have no idea how terrible the grass is in Germany. When I return, I plan to eat my fill." Jazmin helplessly rubbed her forehead and said deliberately, "The MA company cafeteria has pretty decent food. Come on, accompany me back to the company." Oriana's face fell. "Then I'll make sure you eat until you can't anymore. Let's go. I'll treat you to a feast at SKP first." Night had fallen at the Lin family residence. As soon as Hector returned, Helen told him the credit card funds had been completely spent. Hector had also received the news earlier but assumed Helen was purchasing research materials, so he did not ask further. After all, when they were in Country M, it was not unusual to spend millions or even tens of millions on items deemed valuable for research. But when he found out it was to buy Aurelia a dress worth 190,000, Hector's expression momentarily froze. He said with disappointment, "Helen, Aurelia is just a child. Yet you accompany her in such reckless spending. The company is in turmoil right now. Today I was negotiating a deal and failed to secure even a 300,000 project. And you spent 190,000 with her this entire afternoon?" Helen was momentarily stunned. She had come intending to complain and appear wronged. But unexpectedly, Hector reprimanded her without asking for any explanation, his expression immediately darkening. "Hector, what do you mean?" Hector detected the anger in Helen's voice, restrained his irritation, sighed, and said, "I'm not blaming you for reckless spending. What I mean is, you know the company is in difficulty now. You should have tried to reason with Aurelia when she was causing trouble." "Reason? I don't even have time to appease anyone. How could I reason? By what right? I am merely your girlfriend now, carrying your child without even a proper status. You know very well how your grandmother and sister treat me." Helen's tone softened from stern to gentle, deftly controlling Hector. "It's my fault. They do like you quite a bit. So don't overthink it." Hector drew her close. "Aurelia is still young and naive. I will speak up for you with her. As for the wedding, didn't we agree? Once I have purchased the land on Huiyuan Road and the company's difficulties are behind us, I will speak with your parents." Only then did Helen softly respond with an acknowledgement. In the blink of an eye, the day of the auction arrived. William had been traveling non-stop for a week. From Country Z to Country M, he was about to depart on another business trip. But luckily Alex's call stopped him just in time. Chapter 19. Take me to today's auction. I want to see if there's anything interesting to bid on and bring it back to entertain the old gentleman. William was silent for a moment. Then Alex's voice rose sharply. "Have you forgotten about this matter?" "No." William denied it. Staring at the plane ticket in his hand, he hung up and summoned the executive secretary. "Cancel this ticket and buy one for the vice president right away. Let him handle the negotiations for this cooperation. I have an important matter to attend to." The executive secretary tried to dissuade him, "But you've been involved with this project cooperation for half a month. If we suddenly send the vice president instead, won't the other side think we lack sincerity?" A 300 billion deal. If the decision wavers just because the negotiator changes, then it's no use cooperating with such a company. Follow my instructions. Yes. The Secretary General received the order to handle it. William hurriedly set down his suitcase and drove straight to the auction. When Jazmin arrived, she thought she was early. Yet to her surprise, William was nowhere in sight. By the time half of the antiques had been auctioned off and they were nearing the land on Huiyuan Road, he still had not arrived. Hector was wholly fixated on the land at Huiyuan Road. Oblivious to William or anyone from the Sun family, he had thought victory was assured. But when he turned, he found Jazmin standing there, his brow furrowed slightly. Could it be that she also wanted this piece of land? Huiyuan Road, located on the left side of Huiyuan Cross Street. The government. The auctioneer spoke fluently about this parcel's background. Starting bid, 500 million. Hector was the first to raise his bid, 600 million. Jazmin knew that Hector had recently taken out significant loans from the bank, though she was unaware of the exact amount. Judging by the current situation, he was determined to win Huiyuan Road. She only wanted to find an open space to build a factory and laboratory. The location didn't really matter, but seeing Hector win so easily, she thought she might raise the price a little, to amuse herself. There was no way he would succeed so effortlessly. Jazmin kept raising her bids incrementally, only by half the previous increase each time, forcing Hector to call out higher offers. Seeing Hector's brow furrow, Jazmin raised her sign again, 1 billion. She had roughly guessed that he could muster about 1.5 billion. This piece of land had little commercial value. Obtaining 800 million would already be the maximum. 2 billion. Boom! The entire hall turned their eyes toward the figure calling out bids at the entrance. Jazmin was no exception. She was eager to see who would be foolish enough to spend 2 billion on this piece of land. She never expected that. When she turned around, her eyes would meet William's. Suddenly, she remembered something Oriana had said not long ago. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have advised William. Being with him would be better than being with Hector. What do you mean? It was just that William's gaze was undeniably burning hot. It unexpectedly made her afraid to linger any longer. William watched as Jazmin calmly withdrew her gaze, as if she did not recognize him, strode forward under everyone's stares, and sat down beside her. The 20 billion was almost unquestionably awarded to William. The final, decisive verdict. Don't recognize me anymore? William was the first to speak. Jazmin frowned and asked him, the Zhou family has nothing on Huiyuan Road. Why did you spend 20 billion to buy this land? I wanted to see, once again, the way someone looked at me as if I were a fool. His tone was teasing, yet his expression remained serious. Jazmin watched, utterly perplexed. Suddenly, a memory surged unexpectedly in her mind. In her childhood, William, being an illegitimate son, had just been brought back to the Sun family, and none of the playmates welcomed him. Chapter 20. Especially since he was delicate-faced, like a little foreign doll. The boys who surrounded Jazmin grew even angrier. They collectively instilled in her the idea that William was an illegitimate child. A fool, a little beggar, a filthy, stinky child. She had indeed internalized these notions. At the first sight of William, she wanted to run, with her short arms and legs, unable to run fast. She was so easily caught by William that she could only look at him like a fool. After spending more time together, she realized William was neither foolish nor unclean. It seemed she no longer resisted. Later, when William grew up, he went abroad. He didn't even return for her wedding, only sending a large red envelope as a congratulatory gift. She didn't pay it much mind. Have you remembered now? William feigned displeasure and said, we've only been apart for a few years. How could you not recognize me? You weren't this reserved around me before. I will see you off the same way you came. This time, Jazmin truly looked at William as if he were a fool, spending 2 billion to buy a plot of land, just to give it to her? But she immediately realized and asked, you're not trying to pursue me, are you? Watching Hector approach, William didn't even lift an eyelid. Stepping closer, he smiled and said, "Ah, you've been caught." Seeing the two treat him as if he were invisible, Hector clenched his fists. "Jazmin, if you're trying to provoke me, then you've succeeded." Both Jazmin and William were rendered speechless. The auction came to an end. Jazmin had thought William knew she had just divorced and was deliberately playing along when he spoke that way after seeing Hector arrive. But unexpectedly, while driving, William knocked on the car window and said, "Can I catch a ride with you?" Jazmin instinctively replied, "It's not on the way." William's expression instantly darkened. "How can you say it's not on the way when you don't even know where I'm going? How would you know it's on the way if you don't know where I'm headed?" With that, Jazmin pressed the car unlock button. Jazmin was driving a low-profile sports car today. William, with his handsome face, climbed in, and as he fastened his seatbelt, he deliberately leaned over slightly, a scent of cedar mixed with faint tobacco wafting into Jazmin's nose. Jazmin glanced out the window, a faint smile curling at the corners of her eyes. "Can your friend drive 2 cars alone?" Outside the car window, Alex stood on the curb, flanked by 2 cars, one unmistakably the Aston Martin known throughout City H as Williams, lying without even a trace of shame. She really struck the truth with that. Jazmin did not beat around the bush. "You're not the type I like." William did not lose heart. "We have never been together. How do you know that the type you like is not someone like me? Stop joking. How many years have we known each other? Besides, I don't like fools who spend $2 billion on worthless land." Jazmin sighed, her tone turning earnest. "I am not ready to immerse myself in another relationship right now, and perhaps it will be a long time before I am." "So," William responded with a serious expression. "So, may I pursue you while I wait for you?" Jazmin was momentarily stunned. Seeing that he was unwavering, she said, "Suit yourself." "All right then." Jazmin had thought William would give up when faced with difficulty, and that the matter would simply fade away. Unexpectedly, the next day upon arriving at the company, Gabriel approached her in shock, holding documents for her to sign. "These are the land deeds for Huiyuan Road sent by Sun Corporation. Once signed, they will be yours." Chapter 21. Jazmin opened it with suspicion. Was it truly a gift for her? She immediately made a phone call. The moment the phone rang, Alex blurted out, "How did you manage this? You actually got Jazmin to call you first? Did you cast a spell on her?" "Shoo!" William's son had no time for his teasing. As soon as he answered the call, he assumed the manner of a refined CEO. "Received it? I don't want this land. I'll have someone return it to you, even if you send it back. It's useless to me." Sun Corporation has neither buildings nor shops on Huiyuan Road 1. Buying it just to build an amusement park. Do you intend to use it yourself? I bought it expressly for you. If you don't want it, just discard it. So wealthy, but you don't need to give it to me. All right then, marry me, and the entire Sun Corporation will be yours. Let's proceed with the property notarization immediately. Insane. In the end, William hung up the phone with a smile. The two reached an agreement. Jazmin accepted Huiyuan Road on a lease basis, transferring money to William every month. In this way, the two maintained some connection. Alex looked speechless. $2 billion? Why don't you give it to me instead? William's expression darkened. Get lost. Isn't your father's estate worth many times $20 billion? Should I tell him you've come to your senses and are willing to take over the family fortune, so you'll head back now? Alex, I wonder why Tang's mother never let you court Jazmin Tang in the first place. It seems she saw right through you, a sly, wicked fox. William, however, remained silent. When he confessed, Jazmin was not present. Instead, it was Tang's mother who, by an unfortunate twist of fate, overheard. She did not view him as merely young and inexperienced. Rather, she earnestly told him that given his status and his current family, if Jazmin chose to be with him, she would never find happiness. Of course, if Jazmin liked him, we parents would not stand in their way. But love is about sacrifice, about fulfillment, about not wanting the other person to suffer. The choice was left to William. Today, she would pretend not to have heard a word of it, although Madame Tang did not oppose it. But William remained silent. He felt that Mrs. Tang was right, so he began to compete for the inheritance. Unexpectedly, while he was striving for a bright future for both of them, the unaware Jazmin had already married someone else. When he received news abroad that the Tang family had been kidnapped, he dropped everything and rushed back, only to learn that the Lin family, who had saved Jazmin, had already proposed. He left on the day of the wedding. But upon learning she had divorced, a long-extinguished flame in his heart rekindled once again. Whether Huiyuan Road was truly something Jazmin wanted for herself, or merely, as Hector claimed, a way to spite him, this time he would not allow them to miss another 3 years, even if, in her heart, there was still a place reserved for Hector. This time, at her side or behind her, there was always a space that belonged to him. He would no longer let go. By the way, prepare the proposal again for the Nanshan project. I'm heading to MA. Alex wore a confused expression. Everyone has already signed contracts with Integrity Pharmaceuticals. And you still haven't given up? As he spoke, he helplessly waved his hand with an "I knew it" look. Forget it. If you could let go, you wouldn't have come back. If she hadn't already divorced, I bet you'd even try convincing yourself to be the other woman. That will never happen. Oh, so you actually still have some morals? I will advise her to get a divorce first. You're actually quite a decent person. After settling matters with William, Jazmin instructed Gabriel to begin preparations for building the laboratory. Chapter 22. Within a few days, word spread that Hector had spent over $1 billion purchasing a plot of land in the Third Ring. It was said he intended to build a commercial street. Jazmin knew he was gambling, unable to start with the properties near the Sunside on Huiyuan Road. He thought the fastest way to recoup funds was to build a commercial street and make money. Should we? Before Gabriel could finish, Jazmin, knowing he wanted someone to put pressure on Lin Corporation's partners, waved her hand. As long as Lin Corporation doesn't provoke us first, there's no need for us to get entangled in a mess. After 3 years tangled with Hector, she no longer wished to waste a single moment on anything related to him. But her unwillingness did not mean the stench of the fish would not come to taint her. Meanwhile, the banquet for returned overseas Chinese merchants from Country M was underway. President Lin, when you were in Country M you personally managed every detail, making Lin Technology's name resound throughout America. I hadn't expected such a wise and capable madam. She is also thriving at home, the overseas Chinese merchant complimented. Hector politely raised his glass. Boss Lee, you flatter me. These are but small matters. This return is at Helen's wish to come back and develop. Helen came over and caught every word. She straightened her spine, revealing a pride on her face that had long been absent. That's right. This is truly her, the revered scholar. She gently raised her glass and nodded to Bosley. Thank you for your praise. You are too kind. Ultimately, it was Hector's capability that counted. I merely assisted. Since I am pregnant, I will toast you with water. Bosley nodded in approval. Your assistant is quite remarkable. Still capable even while expecting. But speaking of returning home, us old fellows really have to rely on your wife. If we can establish cooperation with MA, then my trip won't have been in vain. Ha ha. At the words, both Hector and Helen's faces stiffened. Helen abruptly stopped drinking, her face as sullen as if smeared with soot. Hector also realized that Bosley did not know he had divorced Jazmin, which explained the earlier scene. Bosley, you must be mistaken. Hector's wife is me. Helen forced a smile, more grimace than genuine, as if squeezed out through clenched teeth. Bosley clicked his tongue in displeasure. Before he could speak, someone nearby reminded him. Bosley, you don't know yet, do you? President Lin was already involved with that woman in Country M. And when he returned, the mistress was pregnant, forcing President Tang from City H to divorce. This has spread throughout City H. Haven't you heard? What nonsense are you talking about? This is not an affair. Our love is genuine. Helen shouted in fury, attempting to rush forward but was held back by Hector. Helen, don't make a scene. Helen turned around in disbelief. Others say you're having an affair with me, and you tell me not to make a fuss? How could Hector have ever failed to defend her before? They are already divorced from Jazmin. How could this happen before they even got married? It has to be Jazmin. It's definitely because of Jazmin. They met again at the auction last time. It must be because of Jazmin that Hector regrets being with her. Go home. Hector could no longer bear to remain amidst the sea of mocking gazes. He rubbed his throbbing forehead and took Helen's hand, withdrawing with her. Is it because of Jazmin? On the journey back, after a prolonged silence, Helen suddenly spoke. What? Startled, Hector hesitated at first. Then, realizing what Helen meant, He covered the back of her hand to soothe her. Don't overthink it. Those people at the banquet aren't individuals we can afford to offend lightly. We may still need to rely on them moving forward. Chapter 23. Rely on them? How? Didn't you hear? They want you to speak favorably of Jazmin more often. They intend to collaborate with MA. Helen spoke with a biting tone. You haven't forgotten what Jazmin said in front of all the business elites of City H, have you? The Lin family's partner is none other than MA's sworn enemy, remember? Tonight. Except for Boss Lee, who is unaware of the situation. Look around the banquet, who isn't desperate to keep their distance from us? It's all because of Jazmin. As her words fell, Hector also fell silent, anger gradually darkening the depths of his eyes. Helen was right, Jazmin was utterly merciless. It was just a normal divorce, yet she drove his career into a devastating decline. After a long pause, he gripped Helen's hand firmly and declared, Helen, let's get married. Helen returned his grip and said, Hector, with your capabilities achieving such success in Country M, after the child is born, I will still have to serve my sentence. I must not hold you back. Rest assured, I will handle it. Helen, I have sworn to marry you. Tomorrow, I will go and bring your parents here. Upon hearing this, Helen nestled into Hector's embrace, a faint glint of determination shining in her eyes. Returning to the Lin family, after informing Grandma Lin about the matter, Grandma Lin firmly rejected the idea. No, this is far too rushed. How would others in City H view the Lin family? Divorcing and remarrying so quickly? How come you weren't afraid of what others might think when you ostentatiously held a birthday banquet for me and announced the child I'm carrying? Helen spoke harshly. Hector frowned but had to admit that Helen was not wrong. He promptly made a firm decision. Tomorrow, Helen and I will go and bring her parents here. Our families need to discuss the marriage. Grandma Lin, deeply worried, secretly pulled Hector aside late at night and earnestly said, Hector, although I am displeased with Jazmin, I am even more dissatisfied with Helen. Just think, because she faked a pregnancy, I agreed to cast Jazmin out. Yet it was all a sham, deceiving us. Ever since she appeared, the Lin family has faced increasing troubles. Although Jazmin may have her flaws, she is devoted to grandmother, attentive to the family, and has managed the Lin household with impeccable order. She also took good care of grandmother and your sister's health. But look now, since the divorce, grandmother can no longer even enjoy a cup of Bayen tea, and Helen lies in bed day after day. Don't even talk about asking her to serve me. Mark my words, it won't be long before grandmother ends up serving her. Hector frowned and said, Helen is pregnant and not very active. Once she arrives, she will surely be more filial to you than Jazmin. Didn't you yourself say back then that Jazmin was flawed and incapable? Can that really be the same? Grandma Lin's voice rose slightly, putting aside Jazmin's care for grandmother. What about the dowries she brought? Does Helen have any of those? How much support can she truly offer you? Hearing this, Hector's voice also turned serious. Grandmother, I was unaware of Jazmin's dowry, and let's not mention it again. But Helen's dowry is her own. No one in the Lin family can touch it. I did not marry her for her dowry. You foolish boy. If your wife cannot support you, then why did you marry her? Helen need not support me in any way. Besides, I know her capabilities well enough, so there is no need to persuade me further. This marriage must take place, especially since my child needs recognition. Outside the house, the grandmother and grandson parted on sour terms, while inside, Helen curled the corners of her lips with satisfaction. Chapter 24. She really should record it and send it to Jazmin to listen to. Let her know what it feels like to be truly loved. A large dowry? What good is a large dowry when it only ends up as a pawn wielded by the Lin family? Without Hector's love, she is nothing but a joke. Once she marries into the Lin family and becomes the lady of the house, she will make Jazmin understand that without money to buy favor, she can still firmly hold the position of young mistress in the Lin family. She is nothing like Jazmin. Early the next morning, Hector sent someone to Changzhou County, Helen's hometown. They brought both of Helen's parents here. Hector and Helen went together to meet the flight. Jazmin never expected that the moment she stepped off the plane, she would see the two people she least wanted to encounter. Helen spotted Jazmin first and, with familiar provocation, leaned intimately on Hector's shoulder. So much so that Jazmin didn't even bother to roll her eyes. Jazmin. William's face stood out conspicuously amid the crowd, and as soon as he called out, everyone at the airport turned to look at them. Jazmin's face flushed. She shot a resentful glare at William and walked toward him, asking with curiosity, "What are you doing here? You left for abroad without even a word of farewell. How can you now blame me for coming to pick you up?" Jazmin said helplessly, "I had urgent business to discuss a cooperation deal. I was only going for a day." Hector's gaze involuntarily followed Jazmin's movements, watching them teasing each other. He uneasily averted his eyes, then looked as his assistant placed Helen's parents' luggage into another car. "Thank you for your journey. Uncle and Aunt, Mom, Dad. This is Hector, whom I told you about." "Yes. Let's go," Helen's father responded calmly. Only when Jazmin stepped outside to the front of the car did she see William's car parked beside Hector's. Truly, it is a narrow path where enemies meet. At the same moment, Hector came over with Helen and her parents. Their eyes locked. Helen's mother gave a puzzled then pointed at Jazmin and stepped forward. "It was you, that wretched girl, who showed no respect for elders by refusing to give up your seat on the plane." Helen's father snorted through his nostrils and said, "My son-in-law is here. He belongs to Lin Technology. You'd better know your place and apologize to us old folks immediately." Hector knit his brows, casting a look at Helen. Helen quickly tugged at her parents, stopping them from further embarrassment. "Mom, Dad, get in the car first." Helen's mother got into the car, still sharp-tongued. "Just because she's petite, why does she get such a spacious seat? What does it matter to me? You don't even know how vicious she is." She said if the plane crashes because we switched seats, you'd have to enshrine her ashes as offerings for me and your father. William couldn't help but chuckle. "Jazmin, eating candy on the plane? Your words are so sweet." Jazmin's lips curved slightly, unwilling to engage with them further. William, however, showed no intention of letting up. With a smile curving the corners of his eyes, handsome and commanding, he spoke mockingly. "Hector, the next time I meet your father-in-law and mother-in-law on a plane, am I supposed to respect my elders and give up my seat? However, the sports car I'm driving today only fits 2 people, so I won't be giving you a ride." As the two entered the car, Jazmin's smile had yet to fade, though inwardly she sighed at the peculiar pair she'd encountered on the plane, Helen's father and Helen's mother. Clearly, their educational background was limited. Helen's rise to her current position was truly the result of her own hard work. She had scarcely boarded the plane when Helen's mother haughtily demanded a seat change, claiming their seats were too cramped and insisting that Jazmin, out of respect for her elders, yield her place to them. Chapter 25. Jazmin nearly laughed in anger. No wonder Helen thought she wasn't a homewrecker. She and Hector were truly in love, so she demanded Jazmin give up her seat. So, they truly were one family. From now on, let Hector endure it. With that thought, Jazmin said, "Don't go to the company. Take me to Huiyuan Road instead. I want to oversee the progress." William glanced at the sky. "How about tomorrow? It looks heavily overcast. They're saying there's a thunderstorm and typhoon today. I don't want you to risk it." "It's nothing. I've checked the forecast. The typhoon will pass next door and won't come here. At most, the wind will be a little stronger." William knew Jazmin's firm decision couldn't be changed, so he nodded silently. After delivering the message, he stayed. "I'll wait for you here." Jazmin thought for a moment, then did not refuse. "Then I'll come out quickly." The wind howled fiercely. The car sped along the road. Inside, Helen's mother and Helen chatted incessantly in their dialect, occasionally glancing at Hector. The assistant drove while glancing through the rearview mirror, noticing Hector's brows gradually furrowing amid the noise. One cannot help but sigh at the disparities between family backgrounds. Miss Tang once rode in his car, and even in such a simple act, she carried herself with grace and poised decorum. It was evident she was impeccably well-bred. This gentleman, the assistant's glance at Helen's father removing his shoes was difficult to interpret. Helen quickly intervened upon seeing this. "Dad, this is inside the car." Helen's father held himself back somewhat, but upon arriving at the Lin family's ancestral home, his true nature resurfaced, gazing here, touching there. When Aurelia returned, she thought the person was a newly hired servant unfamiliar with proper protocol and nearly sent them away. "Aurelia, These are Helen's parents. Go and bring grandmother down. Aurelia shot a glare at Helen's family and said impatiently. Grandmother simply doesn't want to see them. She's gone off to hide and play mahjong. Aurelia. Hector's tone grew sterner. Go bring grandmother back. Aurelia curled her lips, reluctantly brushing past Helen with a sharp glance. Helen's expression darkened severely. Booking economy class for her parents was already one thing, but now the old lady is deliberately avoiding them. Aurelia is completely indifferent. She might have tolerated this before, but now that her parents are here, her attitude remains utterly unchanged. But in the end, she still endured it. Before long, Grandma Lin was brought back. The moment she entered, that aura of nobility made Helen's father and mother exchange a glance. Helen's father and mother, you know we are here to discuss the marriage of our two children. Although Hector is remarried, you are well aware of the Lin family's standing. If Hector wished to marry, families from City H would be lined up waiting. Helen's marriage into our family is truly a blessing. Grandma Lin got straight to the point, and Helen's father and mother nodded repeatedly. Yes, my daughter is an excellent student, the first in our town to be admitted abroad, and indeed the pride of our family. At that time, the first marriage was to Miss Jazmin of the Tang family in City H, whose net worth you can easily verify. It must be in the hundreds of billions. She came with a dowry and no betrothal gift was requested. But times have changed. Helen and Hector fell in love freely. Regarding the dowry, we will not compare it with that of previous generations. The betrothal gift. Grandma Lin left her sentence hanging midway, waiting for Helen's father and Helen's mother to follow her lead. Unexpectedly, Helen's father and Helen's mother decisively said, the betrothal gift must be 3 million. Grandma Lin and Aurelia were both startled. How much? Hector frowned. It wasn't that he couldn't afford 3 million. Chapter 26. He and Helen had agreed in advance not to pay the betrothal gift up front but to make up for it after the wedding. Now that the company's commercial street project had launched, funds were needed everywhere to lay the groundwork and investment. The early-stage investment was enormous. How could he possibly spare an extra 3 million for the betrothal gift? Helen tugged at Helen's mother's sleeve. Mom, I already told you. Told us what? You are pregnant and marrying, and 3 million is barely enough. Does the Lin family's immense fortune mean they are unwilling to give you 3 million? Do you think he will treat you well if he marries you? Though your parents took the betrothal gift and gave no dowry, they have worked hard to raise you all these years. Do you think that was easy? You need to consider deeply how the Lin family feels about you and their attitude towards you. Helen pondered for a moment, suddenly feeling that her mother had a point, and she slowly withdrew her hand from Helen's mother. She also wished to know whether Hector's resolve to marry her and his desire to love her surpassed his feelings for Jazmin. 3 million? Are you crazy? Selling your daughter because you're broke? Aurelia retorted with sarcasm. Upon hearing this, Helen's mother bristled. What do you mean? When you marry out, you refuse the betrothal gift and expect the Lin family to foot the bill? That's certainly not the case. Do you take the Lin family for your own? Aurelia's expression shifted suddenly. Isn't that right? Our daughter can't just come over for free either, especially since she's carrying a grandson for your Lin family. Aurelia sneered. If you say it's a grandson, then it is. Grandma Lin's face darkened immediately as she said, the Lin family can afford this sum, but as you said, no dowry simply won't do, right? Forget the dowry. If you find that unacceptable, I'll take Helen and terminate the pregnancy without marrying into your family. I just doubt you'll be willing to let go of the big, healthy boy in my daughter's womb. Rumble, rumble. The sound of lightning and thunder was accompanied by the ugly, unpleasant expressions on the faces of Helen's family. A sudden wave of regret flashed through Hector's mind. But it was too late. Helen and her parents were ultimately not the same, especially since Helen was carrying his child. He pulled Helen aside and said, didn't we agree? The company urgently needs funds now. The amount of the betrothal gift doesn't matter. We have to hold off for a while. You should persuade your parents not to make a scene at our first meeting. As if they're selling their daughter. A look of disappointment flashed in Helen's eyes. Yet she still held onto Hector's hand. My parents are doing this for me. After all, it's my first marriage. You go along with them for now. Give them the betrothal gift, and I will get the money back for you later. I don't care about the betrothal gift at all. You know that I didn't marry you for this. Hector's heart softened. All right. 3 million it is. The transfer will be made tomorrow. Hector led Helen over. And upon hearing this, Grandma Lin's eyes widened. What on earth was this little vixen whispering to her grandson? She agreed just like that? Helen raised an eyebrow slightly. Boom! Another thunderclap. Meanwhile, on Huiyuan Road, Jazmin was startled. The wind grew stronger, and the umbrella could barely hold back the driving rain. President Tang, the foundational framework on the west side just began construction today. Should we go take a look? Jazmin deliberated, thinking that since she was already here, she might as well take a look to spare herself another trip later. Just as they were speaking, the person in charge's phone rang. Now? All right. After hanging up, the person in charge scratched his head somewhat sheepishly and said, President Tang, a shipment has arrived and is in the warehouse. We need to unload it before the heavy rain starts. I have to go take care of it. Chapter 27. It's nothing. You go ahead. I can manage on my own. I'll have a quick look and leave. You focus on your work. It's no trouble. Jazmin waved her hand dismissively. The person in charge bowed repeatedly. Then I'll head over first. When you're done, just retrace your steps and exit straight ahead. I won't lock the door at the entrance. Jazmin said hello before heading west. The wind and rain intensified as Jazmin walked westward to take a look. And sure enough, she noticed something wrong. She had originally planned to reserve a plot of land in the northwest corner, facing the morning sun, to grow medicinal herbs. Now, it was completely covered in cement. Jazmin took out her phone, snapped a photo, and prepared to leave. Then, the wind suddenly grew stronger. A small, poorly welded rack leaning against the corner of the wall began to sway precariously and fell unexpectedly. Jazmin looked up. The welded rack shrank rapidly in her field of vision as it descended straight toward her. Instinctively, she raised her hands to shield her head. The anticipated pain never fell upon her. Instead, a burning heat of a body shielded her from beneath. A muffled groan escaped. Jazmin looked up in surprise. William, why have you come? Before Jazmin could finish, she abruptly fell silent as blood slowly trickled down William's forehead, dripping onto her face and making her complexion even more pallid. William, she cried out, attempting to rise, but was firmly held down beneath someone's protective embrace. Where are you hurt? Can you move? Let's push the shelf aside. It's nothing. I just smacked your back a little. Don't move. It might hurt a bit. William's tone was casual, which irritated Jazmin. Still acting coquettish at a time like this? The umbrella was knocked aside, and the rain instantly soaked them both thoroughly, even washing away much of the bloodstains. Then I'll blow on it for you. A smirk lifted the corner of William's mouth. That's not impossible. Jazmin punched him. Why are you joking around now? But as soon as she moved, the person beneath her visibly paled, and Jazmin immediately panicked. Why you? I didn't hit hard, but the frame is quite heavy on me. William's voice deepened slightly. Can I move? Let me see if I can squeeze out. Help you hold the frame, or call someone over. This can't go on. The workers went to the warehouse. They'll probably leave once they finish moving. By the time someone comes to rescue us, our bodies will have already decayed. As she spoke, she glanced sideways at the gaps around them, attempting to slip through, but the two were pressed tightly together, almost compressed, their two bodies burning closely against each other. She felt her body temperature rising steadily, and something unmistakable stirring. Jazmin could no longer ignore it. How can you still be thinking about trivial things at a time like this? Hearing this, William spoke with a trace of grievance. Jazmin, the person I love most is beneath me and yet moving. I'm just a normal man, not a saint. Jazmin's face flushed deeply, but as she shifted, she glanced up slightly and saw an iron rod piercing straight into William's back. Moments before, she hadn't noticed because he was pinned beneath her, but now his entire back was soaked through with blood-stained clothes, the rain washing the blood into a pale pink hue. Jazmin's pupils constricted sharply. William, don't move. When William saw that she had noticed, he no longer feigned ease. His voice grew deeper. This won't do. Jazmin cried out loudly for help, searching for any gap through which she could escape. William gazed at the person beneath him with infatuation, feeling the pain in his body lessen considerably. Chapter 28. For a moment, The pouring rain seemed like blazing sunshine to William. Jazmin frowned and looked at him. "Are you all right?" William shook his head but said nothing. Jazmin spotted a gap created by a fallen shelf and, following William's arm, slowly squeezed out. She had just crawled out when, with a loud bang, William suddenly collapsed completely. The frame let out a deafening roar. Jazmin watched helplessly as the iron spike sank deeper. "Help! Help!" Jazmin screamed, struggling to lift the frame. Yet the frame remained completely unmoved. Only then did Jazmin remember to call 120. She hurried to retrieve the phone that had been thrown far away, only to find its screen black and unresponsive. "William, don't fall asleep." Jazmin exerted all her strength to move the rack just enough to expose half of William's body. "I haven't slept." What decent person would be asleep in the rain for no reason? William put on a facade of ease. Hearing his ramblings, Jazmin's eyes instantly filled with tears. William's increasingly pale lips betrayed that he was not as well as he pretended. Guilt flickered in her eyes. She should have listened to William and come back another day. Worried about William's wound, she slowly pulled him from the rack. The heavy rain drummed against her, blurring her vision. Yet she could still clearly see the blood slowly flowing from William. The vitality within him was slowly ebbing away. She gently parted William's soaked hair, revealing a wound several centimeters long. It did not appear deep. Pale pink blood trickled down his cheek. Without hesitation, Jazmin slipped off her high heels, bare feet pressing into the earth, then abruptly lifted him up, pressing him against her side as she took slow, deliberate steps toward the outside. "William, are you asleep?" "No, William, you're not asleep. Are you?" William. William. Jazmin's voice trembled, but her footsteps never faltered. The muddy ground, mixed with shards of broken glass, pierced the soles of her feet. Yet she endured the pain in silence and kept moving forward. For the first time, she felt that a path could be so arduous, so difficult to walk. It seemed endless, though the main gate was right before her eyes. No matter how she tried, she could not reach it. "William, please don't fall asleep. Don't. Didn't you say you wanted to chase after me? You mustn't sleep. Then I'll agree, all right? As you say." "I said it. I said it. Jazmin, I like you. I have liked you for a very, very, very long time." The moment the words fell, Jazmin clearly felt a sudden weight crash down on her all at once. She froze suddenly, tears streaming down in large drops, mingling with the rain. Is William dead? Is the only person in this world who unconditionally cared for her truly gone? She is not a cold-hearted monster. She is moved by the bond they have shared since childhood. She learned from Oriana that William liked her and also witnessed firsthand how well he had treated her these past days, giving land, flowers, meals, projects, employees, this and that. He even plainly told her that he wanted to pursue her. Having endured a failed marriage and a broken relationship, she had resolved to lock away her heart and love forever. Yet, at this moment, her heart is trembling with uncertainty. Someone named William knocked. If William died, Jazmin's breath suddenly caught. No longer hesitating, she once again lifted the man and hurried toward the door. Chapter 29. Fortunately, just as they reached the door, Jazmin saw the person in charge, who also spotted them, braving the pouring rain. He hurried over and quickly took them to the hospital. William was rushed to emergency treatment. Jazmin sat stunned on the bench, blankly staring at the dried bloodstains on her hand. They had been squeezed out by William. The doctor struggled mightily to pry his hand from hers before rushing him into the emergency rescue room. Alex and Oriana arrived one after another as well. "Aw, Jazmin, your foot!" Oriana exclaimed. And only then did Jazmin belatedly realize that her foot was covered in mud and blood. Oriana quickly called a nurse to help clean and bandage it. There were 2 shards of glass embedded deep in the sole of her foot. Alex grimaced in pain as he looked on. "You carried him out like that? He weighs 160 Gene. Oriana nudged him. "Who are you kidding? Skinny as a cornstalk. Not even as strong as Jazmin." Alex was left speechless and promptly changed the subject. "I was just saying today was unlucky. He insisted on going to the airport to pick you up during a typhoon. That's true love." "Yes, Jazmin, I think William is quite remarkable. If only he could survive." Before Oriana could finish speaking, Jazmin suddenly interrupted her. He will survive. Oriana was taken aback and quickly responded. I misspoke. Jazmin had no mood to speak further. Her mind filled with the image of William protecting her beneath him. And that phrase, Jazmin, I like you. I have liked you since a very, very, very long time ago. She was well aware. Few people associated with William, most either feared his smiling death god temper or despised his status as an illegitimate child. Those who truly befriended him were only Oriana, Alex, and the four of them. William had clearly become far more clingy toward her. But in the end, no one dared to reveal the truth. After marrying Hector, whenever she had idle moments, she often thought back to the past and felt that even if there had been affection, it was merely the tender feelings of youth, nothing substantial. Nothing to be taken seriously. Could such affection truly endure for a very, very long time? Oriana brought a pair of cotton slippers over and slipped them onto Jazmin's bandaged feet. William has liked you since childhood. We all know that. He even confessed to you once. But your mother heard it. Jazmin was suddenly overcome with shock. How could she have no knowledge of this? I don't even know what your mother said. But since that day, William has been like a different person, no longer clingy. I heard from Alex that during that time, he was caught in a fierce family power struggle, competing with his elder and younger brothers for the inheritance. He was outmaneuvered and then exiled by the patriarch to Country M. While all that was happening, when those troubles struck your family, he was frantic and hurried back, only to arrive just in time for your wedding. Once again, Jazmin was stunned. He already had control of the business, focusing on Country M. When he found out about your divorce, he rushed back eagerly, Alex added. As they spoke, the red light above the emergency rescue room flickered off, and the main door swung open. The doctor stepped out first, and even before his foot fully crossed the threshold, Jazmin's mind had raced through countless possible explanations he might give. The tension in her heart was taut, as if a single pull would snap the string. Thankfully, the patient was brought in just in time. There is no longer any immediate danger to life, but the wound is severe and requires thorough rest. The doctor's words finally eased that tightened string, and Jazmin nearly crumpled with relief. At that moment, William was wheeled out. As the hospital bed passed by Jazmin, the patient seemed to sense something. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked over, shocking even the doctors. That shouldn't be. It's impossible to wake up immediately after surgery under anesthesia. Could it be that the anesthesia dosage was insufficient? Watching William painfully stretch out his hand toward her, Jazmin, with eyes reddened, willingly reached out hers. The moment their hands clasped, the person on the hospital bed sank back into unconsciousness. Only Jazmin knew how tightly those hands were clasped. As if afraid of losing her, the nurse tended to Jazmin's feet and gently pushed the bed into the ward. Those hands remained locked together just like that, until Jazmin's entire arm went numb, until William fully awakened. I thought that upon waking, I would face a room filled with loneliness. William smiled and met Jazmin's eyes, which had been fixed on him. Pain flickered in Jazmin's eyes, yet her lips refused to easily give in to tenderness. You're holding on so tightly. Even if I wanted to leave, I couldn't. William knew she was speaking contrary to her feelings. The thought caused his handsome features to contort in pain. Jazmin immediately became anxious. You just woke up. Don't move abruptly. The wound might reopen. I'm not moving. I just wanted to see you worried. William then opportunely lay back down, cunningly seizing Jazmin's other hand. Jazmin looked at his unhidden triumph, both angry and helpless. 2 days later, William was already able to move, though it was still too soon for him to try getting out of bed. Jazmin came 3 times a day, shuttling between the company and the hospital. Another week passed, and Gabriel made a special trip to the hospital to deliver an invitation to Jazmin, sent on behalf of the Lin Corporation. Since you haven't been to the company these past few days, the wedding is set for tomorrow. Jazmin was peeling an apple for William when she glanced at it, her heart calm and unmoved. Hector and Helen are getting married. Chapter 30. William observed Jazmin's expression and casually asked, Are you going? Why would I go? Jazmin was taken aback. Attend your ex-husband's wedding? Hearing this, William laughed heartily. Oh, then I won't go. But when it's our wedding, I'll definitely have them brought over to see our happiness. Jazmin froze for a moment, then hurled the half-peeled apple at him. She wanted to say, "Keep dreaming," but felt it would be too hurtful. In the end, she opened her mouth but said nothing. William saw her flushed face and felt a thrilling itch within his heart. "President Wang, please step outside for a moment. I have something to discuss with President Tang." Though shocked by the swift progress of their relationship, Gabriel obediently left the room. The instant the door closed behind him, Gabriel's eyes widened in astonishment. On the hospital bed, the person smiled softly, her gaze warningly sweeping over him before possessively cupping President Tang's face and pressing a deep kiss upon him. So there really is something to discuss. They must consider him a needless third wheel. Jazmin's pupils involuntarily dilated, her face growing increasingly flushed. She wanted to push William away but, mindful of his wound, could only retreat passively, yet the large hand at the back of her head forcefully pushed her entire body forward. "William! William!" Jazmin called out solemnly to stop him, only to see William's expression suddenly change. "Don't pull away. It hurts so much." At William's cry of pain, Jazmin immediately stopped retreating, forgetting even her anger, anxiously tending to the man's wound. "Where does it hurt?" William blinked his innocent round eyes plaintively, just as he had that day over 10 years ago when they first met, tugging at the corner of her clothes as he followed behind her. Memories flicker and fade swiftly, and William's grievance vanished in a flash as he slyly kissed her. "My lips hurt from your bite." On the eve of William's discharge from the hospital, Jazmin encountered Hector there. It was said that Helen and Aurelia quarreled, leading to a fall down the stairs and a miscarriage. Because of this, she would never be able to conceive again. Hector also saw Jazmin, with William standing by her side. A match of talent and beauty, families well matched. That was once how others described Hector and Jazmin. At that time, the two stood embraced, shoulder to shoulder. Just like that, endless regret filled Hector's eyes as he stood motionless, watching Jazmin approach him. A faint glimmer of hope gradually rose within his heart. Would she turn back? Did she still love him? But Jazmin brushed past him without so much as a greeting. Not even a single glance was spared for him. Hector's heart shattered with a thunderous crash. It was a torment of his own making, the path he himself had chosen. Kneeling, there was no turning back. Moreover, why would Jazmin forgive him and wait for him all this time? William squinted and glanced back at the despondent Hector. A cold gleam flashed in his eyes before he caught up with Jazmin's footsteps and asked with a sly smile, "No greeting for your ex-husband?" Jazmin heard the jealousy in his tone and felt an urge to punch William, but she knew this was a manifestation of his deep insecurity inside. "Strangers, what's the point of greeting each other? I heard Helen's parents absconded with 3 million in betrothal gifts." During a quarrel between Helen and Aurelia, Helen was pushed down the stairs, suffered a miscarriage, and can no longer have children. Hector's project has also been suspended due to lack of funds. Jazmin's eyes remained calm. She did not feel much satisfaction. Perhaps she had truly let go. In the past, there was the bitterness of unrequited effort and betrayal. Now, seeing them, they seemed like strangers. William, that grim reaper of a man, often enraged her to the point of stomping her feet. She shot William an annoyed glare and, walking away, deliberately said, "Weren't you going to greet them? I'll have Gabriel deliver a copy of the engagement ceremony invitation to Hector." William immediately lost his composure. "I was just joking." Time passed in the blink of an eye, and winter's grip began to loosen. But this year, the first snow fell unusually late, yet it was perfectly timed. On the day of their wedding, they were busy with the wedding all day. All the prominent figures of City H had arrived, and the two were so occupied they barely touched the ground. Jazmin saw Hector's figure but paid it no mind. After the wedding, beneath the cover of night, they stood together by the window. William held Jazmin in his arms, affectionately nuzzling her neck. "At last, I have married you. From the very first moment I saw you, I wanted to marry you." Jazmin looked at him in surprise. "You were only a few years old then." 10 years old. William remembered clearly, and so did Jazmin. "That day, you were the only one who didn't leave," William added with a joke. Jazmin was caught between laughter and tears. "The night is long. Shall we get down to business?" William held the beauty tightly in his arms. The beauty, her face flushed, watched William release her and bring forth a box. Inside, it contained various documents and cards. Looking up, William's solemn face met hers. Today, I give you all that I am, including myself. From astonishment to deep emotion, Jazmin watched William place the box into her hands, then slowly bowed her head and kissed him. Jazmin, in the 13th year of loving you, the first year of our true love has come. Jazmin swiftly moved from passivity to initiative. We have so many years ahead of us. Are you ready? I love you.